Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy
They
there.
got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case. Dati Anglican police, Stermer Latino. I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Is that correct?
Oh, from safe.
Because we here in Canada hate you and hope for bad things for you because we hate you.
All right, there we go. Just had to put Ian in there a little bit. It's been a while since I've talked to him. Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. I know Ian doesn't hate him. He hates USPS. Oh, no, UPS. Sorry, let me get this right. Oh, man. The music's too loud. Lunch was not long enough. Welcome one and all. Welcome especially to Rianne K, who was first in chat this afternoon. Congratulations, Rianne. You actually, before I had even announced it, you snuck in to the afternoon session, and here you are. So we're going to punish you with internet ownership. It's all you all afternoon. But luckily for you, Rianne, we have the podcast tonight at 8 p.m. So you will get a reprieve before bedtime. So you just take care of everything until then. You'll be good. It'll be wonderful. You did great last time. You'll do good this time as well. All right. Friendship tariffs. There we go. Is 9 out of 10 judges really watching Recovery Addict? I'm just saying 9 out of 10 judges prefer watching Recovery Addict. Whether they do or not, that's another issue. All right.
I don't like podiums, Your Honor.
I don't like podiums either. Do you know what I don't like about podiums? I don't like that when people pound the podium, the microphone makes a bunch of noise. I don't like the audio side of podiums. We have been known to be on judges' screens. We've been known that judges have followed our case and watched, even if it was in the evenings, watched what we did and said about them. We've seen some of that. All right. Welcome. Hope your lunch was great. Hope it was delicious and nutritious and tasted like chicken like mine did. It was really, really good. So with that said, we're going to be going back to court here shortly. I think, let's see where we're at. Are we at this one? Yeah, I think we're on 2. I think we're on 2 today. Let's go there. I have 2 Apple TVs now, and luckily the remotes are exactly the same except for one thing. You can't tell, but the plugs are different. One is a Lightning and one is a USB-C. They're almost identical. That's the only way I can tell them apart. So now, okay, so I'll keep them on different spots on my desk, so it'll work out. All right, where are we? We are here. Just checking to see if anything happened in some of the other courtrooms that we're jumping around in, and apparently nothing has, which is good. Nothing big. We didn't miss anything. Bernie. Thurston County's doing something. It's arraignments. Okay, so early stuff. All right. Welcome all. Welcome. Happy Thursday, Podcast Thursday. Does that seal say circumspice? Yes. It's like allspice, but it's circumspice. It sounds like it's Latin. Okay. Yes, we know we were looking at it. You caught us looking. Sorry. I didn't hear any reports that lunch was not good, so so wonderful to hear. Everyone in gray ate more than welcome. I'll bring plenty of snacks and beverages. I'm back, y'all, says Pam I Am. Welcome. Good to have you here. This is an interesting case. It is spicy. It's been so spicy, especially with the fire investigator and defense lawyer who have been going at it. And it takes two to tango. Yeah, they're sort of egging each other on here and playing a game. What's a polite word for a pissing match? I'm sorry for those of you who are offended by that term, but what's the polite term for that? I can never remember. Circumspice means look around in Latin. It doesn't apply to the jury. Only pay attention to what the judge says you can look at. I think one is an elk and the other is a moose. I think you're right. The one on the right is the moose. The one on the left is the elk. And it's the mane on the elk, the big furry neck that sets it apart from the deer. But the antlers are all backwards. The antlers are bad. Which elk is male and which is female? That seal does not specify. They are both male. It is a male moose and a male elk. Because it's got the tusks. I'm not sure if you guys got that commercial, that reference. Diabeteson, welcome to the gallery. Thank you very much. Good to have you here. Not tusks. The tusks reference is an old commercial that California put out about a state fair and about how desperately they needed a state fair because nobody understood animals and anything else. And they were talking about cashmere sweaters and where they come from. She's like, comes from, the wool, like from a cow or something. And she's like, the boy cow or the girl cow? She's like, the boy cow, the one with the tusks. Anyway, it's funnier if you watch the commercial. Look it up. State Fair Tusk commercial. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It'll have you chuckle. Oh, DB has a Zoom motion hearing before Judge Darrow tomorrow. That'll be great for him. I'm sorry. Battle of egos. That's a good term. It's an ego battle. Super T gifted a membership, and that went to Pink 4x4 Lady. Congratulations, Pink 4x4 Lady, and thank you very much, Super T, for your generosity. It's really cool. Now y'all are watching the commercial about the state fair. Dog lover, welcome. You made it. You arrived. We are ready to begin here, if they're ready. Judge said 1:15 was the start time. But the biggest bit of spice we had from this morning was when the witness on the stand, when sort of asked if he remembered giving testimony in 2009, instead of saying, yes, I remember giving testimony at that hearing, he said, at the first trial? And the defense even immediately said, Your Honor, may we approach? And nothing happened. There was no curative statement. There was no... anything. Judge didn't give any ruling. I think it's just like, don't draw attention to it. Don't draw attention to it. Just pretend they didn't notice. And there was also some degree of the fact that the defense really led him right into that. So they sort of opened the door. Thought the lawyer said at the first trial. No, it was the witness that said the first trial. The lawyer said 2009. Myron, we thought about it, but we're going to go Corey Richins instead. And we're watching Corey Richins as if it were her first trial. That's what we're going to do. Without talking about evidence that was brought up before, comparing, contrasting, I want to see it as a new juror who doesn't know anything about the case and who did not see any of the protesting on either side. Karen Reed, sorry. We'll watch Corey Richards as well. Judge is here.
We are back on the record in the case of People versus Linda Stermer. Any matters to address before we bring in the jury?
Sorry, I mixed up.
Yeah.
I mixed up the two KRs. Talking about Karen Reed. Karen Reed trial is in jury selection right now. That's where we're going to go. Corey Richens has her first trial, and it starts later, and we're going to follow that one as well. So apologize for the mix-up. I'm going to blame it on the chicken sandwich I ate. Yeah, if you're not into Karen Reed, that's great. There are plenty of places to watch other things. We'll miss you. Come back when we're done. But there's luckily there's a plethora of legal proceedings to choose from. Is Linda's sons testifying in this trial? We think we'll hear at least from one of them. Probably towards the very end of the state's case. I think that's Linda's daughter right there. We might hear from her, from the defense as well. That'll be interesting.
Okay, we'll bring in the jurors now.
I made you mess up your mini cross stitch. I think it's the mini cross stitch that makes you mess up. You need to do a gigantic cross stitch and it becomes easier to hit the little marks. No, drop a stitch or something. The daughters were from a previous marriage. The two daughters, the three sons lived with her in this house. And then, of course, later in the summer, we've got this trial, Brian Koberger.
Welcome back, Sherry.
Welcome. Redirect here.
And sir, you're reminded you're still under oath?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Blair, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you agree with me that as fire consumes fuel, it reduces the mass of that fuel?
Yes.
And so something that may have been this big, 3 or 4 feet, whatever, catches on fire and may be reduced to something much smaller than that. Clarifying question.
I'll allow for clarification.
Yes.
You were asked, I believe, some questions by Mr. Mueller about a fire starting in a room, as we've described here in court, I guess, with Ms. Stermer being downstairs and Todd being up in the living room. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is there a conceivable way that a person could be, let me rephrase the question. How does that, or is it conceivable that a fire could start in one room and somebody be in another room, but that person in the other room be responsible for pouring an accelerant or something like that in a room and catching fire?
Sorry. Objection, Your Honor. I thought he was speculating talking about possibilities. He's an expert. We talk about probabilities.
Direct response to his line of questioning, Your Honor.
I'll overrule the objection that's responsive to the cross-examination.
Yes, it is
It would be spicy.
possible to pour a flammable liquid like gasoline in one room, and then as the vapor from that gasoline will spread and could potentially find an ignition source. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if there is an open flame in a room, such as a fireplace, and a person dumps gasoline in that room and then runs out and leaves, it is still conceivable that room could still catch fire.
Yes.
And Mr. Mueller, in fact, brought up Ms. Stermer's statement that she was downstairs in the laundry room doing laundry. Do you recall that?
Yes.
That also works on a presumption that Ms. Stermer is telling us the truth about her location in the house. Is that correct?
Now he's asking for credibility determination. Well, we already determined her to be credible. Never mind.
Is he testifying?
So you're withdrawing your objection?
Okay.
Ask that again.
Sure. We're working on certain presumptions here that the statement provided by Ms. Stermer is an accurate depiction of what happened on January 7th, 2007.
That is a presumption, yes.
Because what we know, based on your opinion, if it's fair to say, is that there was a fuel source, gasoline, in the living room, and it was exposed to an open flame, correct?
Correct.
Continuing to lead.
Clarify.
Yeah, there is a lot of leading, so if you can try to, I get you may need to do some for redirect, but.
Thank you. And that's kind of where I'm going. I have to lead a little bit to redirect, or else we're going to be here all day, Your Honor. So, we don't know what the source of the open flame necessarily was in the living room at the Stermer residence.
Exactly? No.
Could have come from the fireplace.
That's an option, yes.
Could have been someone threw a match on it.
That is a possibility.
Or some other flame source.
Correct.
You were asked about Linda's clothing not testing positive for gasoline. Do you recall those?
Yes.
Is it possible to not get gasoline on your clothing when you're pouring gas?
Yes, it's possible.
It's also possible she could have changed clothes.
It's possible.
There are certain possibilities here that do exist that explain some of the evidence in this case. Is that a fair statement?
Leading again.
Clarifying, Your Honor.
I'll allow it for clarification.
Yes, it's possible.
You were asked about, and we're kind of cut off on this, so I'm going to kind of go on to this a little bit. Mr. Stermer's sweatpants. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
And about how they did not, may or may not have burned. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Are there certain factors that play into how clothing burns or whether clothing might burn?
Yes, there's when clothes.
He literally
It's
asked.
responsive to cross-exam, I'll allow it.
Spice.
So yes, when clothing, that all comes down to depending on how it's formed or how it's placed, if there's something on it. And I briefly mentioned something. Well, there could have been a blanket on his lap. That's kind of goes back to what I talked earlier in my testimony about putting leaves on top of a fire. It would like almost smother it. So if there's something over the sweatpants that may have prevented burning, or the fact, or how the sweatpants were placed. Are they stretched out? They hung on a line, or are they clumped up in a big wad? Those are all going to, that is all going to affect how or if they would burn.
Could be human intervention as well. For
Yes.
instance, if I'm on fire and I'm doing this with my hands and slapping the fire or brushing the fire out, that could put the fire out.
Potentially.
It won't put out the gasoline fire. Those fumes, just spreads them.
And you were also asked more questions about the statement of Ms. Stermer after Mr. Stermer exited the residence. Do you recall those?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Do you recall the testimony that, or the statement of Ms. Stermer where she described Todd as being on fire?
Yes.
So based on that statement, we would know Todd is on fire, but his pants did not burn. Fair?
Objection. Form of question and foundation.
Yeah, but if you could rephrase that, it calls for speculation.
Fair. Mr. Stermer was on fire based on that statement, correct?
Correct.
And We have evidence that he was burned. Was that fair?
Yes.
And there is some testimony or questioning about whether or not his sweatpants would have burned away. Do you recall that?
Yes.
What we do know, I guess from what I'm trying to get at here, is while he was on fire, his sweatpants did not burn. Fair?
Objection. Form of the question again. Reading.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with it, but maybe more open-ended questions.
I'm having a hard time asking open-ended questions about this, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Without going thunder into an area. What I'm trying, I guess, to get at here is, well, you know what? I'll leave it where it is. I think I've covered it enough. NFPA 921 is a reference guide, correct?
Correct.
Are you expected to memorize NFPA 921?
No.
As being described as a reference guide, is that something you would reference if you need guidance or advice?
Yes.
Do we have a display, an exhibit? We use the state's
When you're
exhibit,
determining
defense exhibit.
what data you collect that may or may not be relevant, are you relying on your training and experience?
Yes.
So based on your training and experience, you would know that some items contained at a fire scene have nothing to do with anything. Is that fair?
Yes, that's a decision that's made through training and experience.
Stop with the leading objection or leading question, despite the reminders.
It's clarifying, Your Honor, and I'm just trying to get to the point of this redirect.
I'll allow it. I think it's just to get through this in a more efficient manner. So
Thank you, Your Honor.
Defense is not happy. They've lost a lot of these objections today.
You were shown a large poster board by Mr. Mueller about NFPA 921. Do you recall that?
Well, a couple of them. Yes.
Fair.
Yes.
One of which was talking about an incendiary fire, I believe. Is that, am I correct on that, or am I mistaken?
I don't recall that, but
okay.
I might be wrong.
Well, I recall in your testimony you were trying to talk about an inference that you're allowed to make when it comes to an intentionally set fire. Do you recall that?
I don't think it was an intentionally set fire. It was any fire.
Any fire. Can you explain that to the jury, because Mr. Mueller cut you off before you could explain that?
you didn't need the comment.
Well, that's what happened, but fair enough.
Both of you are providing improper comment. I don't think the jury appreciates it, and I don't.
I apologize.
There you go. Now it will stop.
So again, you were attempting to explain an inference that you're allowed to draw when it comes to fires, some fires. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury what that is, please?
That was the discussion of your ignition source and the first fuel ignited, and then the third is the circumstance that brings them together. And this is not, that's for all fires, not just an intentionally set fire. In that same section, or in 921, it states that logical inferences can occur to bringing those two together. And one of the inferences specifically states where there's a flammable liquid present and you may not be able, you're likely or may not be able to find the actual ignition source.
Does it provide any other guidance other than that? Or is that the extent of it?
It guides to make sure you don't make that inference without proper evidence to say that there was a flammable liquid there. It cautions you not to make other inferences about bringing those two together.
So for instance, the inference that you're allowed to draw, if I'm clear on this, is that if there is an ignitable liquid in a room and an open source of flame, a logical inference can be drawn that the open flame set the ignitable liquid on fire, or the vapor.
I didn't hear a question mark on that.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, it would allow, because of the flammable liquids in the room, it allows an inference that it came in contact with an open flame. You
were asked several questions by Mr. Mueller about your previous testimony in this case. Do you recall those?
Yes.
And you had a chance to look at that testimony?
On the stand, yes.
Okay. And at any point in time during that testimony, in the 2009 testimony, for instance, in that time frame, were you ever asked by anyone about first fuel ignited or anything along those lines, if you recall?
I don't recall being asked those specific questions.
You were asked about your report and there being, or excuse me, your testimony and there being two able-bodied persons at the Stermer residence. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said that was a circumstance, I believe.
Yes.
Can you explain kind of more to the jury about what you mean by that?
And it's true, there's nothing in any of the reference material about able-bodied people. That is more of a common sense
deduction.
A common sense observation about able-bodied people being able to self-rescue.
Not a human factor. He's testifying what typical people would do. You wouldn't let me get into what Linda Stermer might react, how she might react.
Allow it based on his expertise, if he can.
He's testifying based on his own common sense, is what he even indicated, Your Honor.
Yeah.
So, I guess you were explaining it was kind of a common sense thing. Can you kind of expound on that?
Well, I kind of explained to it. There's no, is there any scientific background? No. That I know of. Let me rephrase that. But it's, if I've seen in past fire investigations that there's somebody in the house who is able and discover a fire, they typically take some sort of action. Escape, call for help, go and try to save pets or something like that. There's usually some sort of action.
And when we're talking about maybe a slower building fire versus a faster fire, a slower fire such as electrical or something like that, would that be something that you would maybe expect somebody to notice?
It does call for speculation.
Have you investigated electrical fires before?
Yes.
And have you had the opportunity have you had the opportunity to observe the damage and what they look like?
Yes.
And so I guess to kind of get to the point, when you rendered your opinion that this was not an electrical fire, were you basing that based on your experience?
Yes.
This kind of seems like a silly question, but you talked about the oil lamps that were at the Stermer residence. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do those generally contain gasoline?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I asked if they generally contain gasoline.
No.
The oil lamps.
Turned up so we can hear the defense objections a little better.
Call from the speculate. No foundation there.
Overruled.
You wouldn't find, I wouldn't expect to find those, because if you put gasoline in an oil lamp and light the wick, the fire is going to be bad. It's going to be very big and very quick. More than a person would expect from igniting a lamp with lamp oil in it.
Very good.
Very good. Good job, witness.
Kind of goes without saying, but does gasoline emit an odor?
Yes.
I can smell gasoline.
And does gasoline, is it a, to your knowledge, a fairly unique odor?
liquid petroleum products have a unique odor.
You were asked about the boat hypothesis by Mr. Mueller. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
How was this boat described to you?
It was initially described to me as a toy boat.
Made of what material?
I wasn't told initially.
But a toy boat.
A toy boat.
Now, as part of your training and experience, are you allowed to, for lack of a better word, exclude hypotheses that just simply don't make sense?
Yes.
And in your training and experience, did that make sense to you that there would be gasoline in a toy boat?
It did not.
I love this. It's like, I know there's more. Let me make sure I get this all. Let's see what defense wants to do here on. It's recross now. Should be limited in scope. Limited to the things that the state covered on direct. A redirect. These are the things they want the jury to take away from this testimony. They're going to try to get it to here. Let's see what they say.
I'll try not to plow over too much old ground, sir, but you keep calling this a guide and a reference manual. This is the guide used by all fire investigators around the world, isn't it?
I can't speak to all fire investigators around the world, but in the United States, that is the main guide for fire investigation.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions about possibilities. What's possible about this? You remember that?
Yes.
You are a forensic expert, are you not?
I've never been called a forensic expert.
All right, you're a fire cause and origin expert, are you not?
Yes.
You rely on the scientific method and scientific principles, correct?
I rely on data, sometimes scientific, sometimes other.
You don't deal in the world of possibilities, do you? Anything's possible, right?
Well, possibilities are part of drawing a hypothesis.
And when you come to an opinion, it's based on probabilities and on evidence you find. Is that not right?
And then the hypotheses are checked by analyzing the data with it.
Right. So, you were talking about electrical fires you've investigated, despite the fact that you've admitted you're not an expert in electrical, correct?
There's a big difference between an expert and knowing something about electrical fires.
Yes. But you're an expert witness. You understand that all fires are unique.
Some of them have similarities, but there's a great vast of different fires.
So you can't paint it with a broad brush. I've seen some electrical fires, so they exhibit all these same characteristics. Fair?
I never said that.
And you wouldn't say that?
I would not say that.
Because that would be intellectually dishonest, wouldn't it?
I would not say that.
Oh, it wouldn't be intellectually dishonest.
I think he was just responding to your past question that you were rephrasing. So.
You talk about the smell of gasoline.
Yes.
Right. And you said, I can smell liquid petroleum products. There are several of those, right?
Correct.
Right. You can't distinguish that's gasoline versus some other kind of product that might be close. Fair?
I would never smell liquid petroleum. I would identify it, but I would never try to make a determination of what it is without a laboratory exam.
Fair enough, because your nose is just like every other nose. You can kind of smell it. It smells like it, but I don't know.
Correct.
Can't testify.
And you wouldn't go out on a limb, would you?
On smell alone?
Yes.
No.
All right. You were asked questions about testimony you gave in 2009 and 2010 under oath. Remember that?
Yes.
And you were asked, well, you weren't at... You're
I'm sorry. No, I'm fine. Okay. I've got somebody over here.
Okay.
You were asked questions about, you didn't get asked about for ignition source and first fuels. Remember that question?
Yes.
It is incumbent upon you as the expert who's going to testify to the cause of a fire to tell the folks who are listening what the ignition source is, correct?
Yes.
And the first fuel, correct?
But those buzzwords may not have been used. But yes. I would tell them that what the ignition source and the first fuel.
Trial is not a cat and mouse game, is it?
It is not.
All right, so it's not about you don't ask, I don't tell. Fair?
It actually is.
I typically answer the questions that are asked. I try not to just start talking.
But you didn't volunteer in any of those hearings as we talked about ignition source or first fuel. Fair?
I can't remember.
I'm following up on his recross or redirect. And in terms of slower or faster fire, were asked some questions about that, remember?
Yes.
Slower and faster, those are relative terms, right?
They are.
All right. You don't use those. You're not supposed to use those, correct?
It is very subjective.
It's cautioned against by
Yes.
921.
Correct.
To say anything's abnormally fast.
It is cautioned.
Right. Because there, as we explained, there are so many factors that go into the speed of a fire.
920 says you can discuss it, but you should be cautioned to making that your sole piece of data, making a decision.
Let's talk about this idea of inferring something without evidence. It's called negative corpus, is it not?
No. In negative, that is not the definition I've heard of negative corpus. I know what negative corpus is.
Negative corpus is supplying an ignition source and a first fuel where you don't have affirmative evidence of it. Negative corpus without the body, right?
Negative corpus means without the body.
Right. So you're supplying an ignition source and a first fuel without affirmative evidence of it, correct?
Well, the affirmative evidence is the fire itself.
All right. Let me direct you to, if I can, the appropriate use of negative corpus. Identifying the ignition source for a fire by believing to have eliminated all ignition sources found, known, or suspected to have been present in the area of origin, and for which no supporting evidence exists, is referred to as negative corpus. You agree with that?
That is correct.
Okay. Determination of the ignition source must be based on data or logical inferences drawn from that data, correct?
Correct. Logical inferences.
And in fact, section 4.3.6.1 tells us any hypothesis that is incapable of being tested either physically or analytically is an invalid hypothesis, correct?
That is correct.
Goes on to say, a hypothesis based on the absence of data is an example of a hypothesis that is incapable of being tested, which means that's an invalid hypothesis, correct?
Correct.
And you suggest inferences that you can make based on an absence of data. The authorities that you look to say only when it's clearly defined, correct?
The logical inferences were made from data.
And it can only be used in those limited circumstances where the area of origin is clearly defined.
Correct.
Now, you previously told us that John Lentini and his scientific protocols is an authority that is referenced, correct?
I guess I'm going to object. I think we're getting crossed beyond the scope of redirect here.
No, he talked about the negative corpuses and inferences.
I'll allow it. I can go beyond the scope, but it's getting cumulative.
True. Clearly defined.
What question?
You can only use negative corpus, this absence of evidence, under limited circumstances where the area of origin is clearly defined, correct?
Correct.
And John Lentini tells us on page 128, clearly defined means that anyone, even somebody completely untrained in the investigation of fires, could look at the damage and unhesitatingly, without fear of contradiction,
I guess I'm going to object. I think this is testimony.
point at this is the authority, this is learned treatise.
The record, the book, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
I mean, how much of this are you going to...
Just one more sentence.
One quote? Okay, after this quote, we're done. And I'm not going to have you read the whole book to the jury.
It's 2 sentences, Your Honor.
That's why I'm asking how many sentences. We'll see if it's 2.
Without fear of contradiction, point at the location and state that's where the fire started. That would be clearly defined, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, it took you with all your training to define the area of origin, in this case, as a living room that's 20 by 20.
That's correct.
And you can't tell this jury anywhere in this area of origin where that fire started. Fair?
The area of origin is clearly defined as the first floor living room.
So according to the authorities that I just read, somebody, like any of us, ought to be able to find exactly, looking at that evidence, all that damage, and find out exactly that the living room was the area of origin.
I'm object to the argument, but Your Honor, I think that some of the questions are proper as well.
It goes right to the impeachment.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
In this case, we have a potential crime scene, you testified, right?
Yes.
We have a 7-foot pile of debris that you claim you excavated that's missing.
I didn't say it was missing. There's a pile of debris outside.
That 7-foot high pile you didn't see, did you?
I did not see a 7-foot pile in the photographs.
And you didn't record it?
I did not photograph it. Is that what you mean, recording?
Photograph it?
Correct.
In fact, so when you told us you looked for photographs of the excavation, you just couldn't find them. Remember you told us that yesterday?
Yes.
That's technically true. You looked and you couldn't find them, correct?
Yes.
Because you didn't take them, correct?
That's probably what happened.
So technically, what you told us was true, a half-truth. I looked and I couldn't find them. What you didn't tell us was that it's because you didn't take any pictures. Fair?
I don't have a specific recollection of taking that photograph. A photograph of the post-excavation.
Or during excavation.
I do not have a direct recollection of photographs during the excavation.
Famous last words, but last question.
You don't know.
There was no gasoline found other than Todd Stermer sweatpants in the area of origin. Is that correct?
I was unable to locate any gasoline in the living room due to the heavy destruction of the living room.
So you can't rule out the logical possibility that there was no gasoline in the living room other than Todd Stermer sweatpants. Fair?
Todd Stermer sweatpants were in the living room. Correct.
That wasn't the question. Other than Todd Stermer sweatpants, you can't rule out the logical possibility that there was no gasoline in the area of origin.
I cannot.
Logical inference.
I know it's the last question. I know I said it, Your Honor, but I just have one further area. All right. Like I said, famous last words. Thank you.
She told him to sit down. She told him to sit
Did you
down.
employ a negative corpus analysis, or however it's described in this case?
No.
Can you describe for the jury what that means, since we didn't really get into what it means?
Negative corpus used to be used a lot in fire investigation improperly when a fire investigator would go to a house, didn't have any evidence or data of what started the fire, and jump to the conclusion, well, if I didn't find it, it must be this. It must be an incendiary fire. It must be accidental. That is improper. Now, it's typically the process of elimination is used by examining the data.
Thank you. And based on the evidence you collected, do we know whether or not Todd Stermer was in the area of origin?
We do.
And do we know whether or not his sweatpants were in the area of origin?
We do.
And those would be the sweatpants that, again, tested positive for gasoline?
Correct.
And we also, do we know if there was an open flame in the living room?
We do.
All the data suggests there is.
And what was that?
The remnants of a log in the fireplace and statements from Linda Stermer and, I believe, other witnesses.
And still ask a couple questions, Your Honor. This case has been going on since 2007, correct?
Correct.
Would that be almost 18 years?
Yes.
In that time, have you reviewed all of the evidence that may have been collected in this case?
I do not know if I've reviewed all of the evidence collected. I have reviewed a lot of the evidence.
Has there been any evidence brought to your attention that calls into question your opinion that this was an intentionally set fire?
No.
If it had, would you hesitate to change your opinion?
I would not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Miller?
Do you want to do this again?
Todd Stermer was certainly in the area of origin at the instant the fire started, do you believe?
Yes.
Linda Stermer was not in the area of origin at the instant of the fire starting, correct?
There's no evidence that she is.
And you found, based on your testimony, you found her to be credible, correct?
Objection, that's calling me good.
That's not, the jury decides credibility, not the witnesses.
Your Honor, if I may, he determined it as reliable. I'll say reliable.
I'm sustaining the objection.
You found her statement to be reliable because you depended on that.
I've sustained the objection. Move on.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions for you.
Are you done?
We are done, Your Honor. Thank you.
Jury, your turn. Any questions of this witness?
Step right up, jury.
Okay, they're coming in.
Here we go. Mute the sound for a second. All right. The judge has found her backbone. She is putting her foot down gently on the attorneys and scene. She cut off defense. She said, "You said last question. You're done. You're done." Oh, my goodness. Now, realize as they're looking at these questions from the jury, which I don't know how many there are, but I imagine there are a few. After they're asked and answered, both sides get to ask again. That may bring up other areas where they want to cross or redirect on. So Yay, we may be done. We may be done. I'm very interested in this testimony to see if the questions tend to enhance the testimony of the witness or question the allegations of the defense or the assertions of the defense. Alexis, not yet. Not yet. It didn't arrive yet. But I haven't been today. Wish I could hear these sidebars. That'd be great. This witness lives here now. The jury now loves the judge. They're like, thank you. Thank you. Why are you looking at each other's notes? Oh, wait, that's the juror question. At least 2 pages of notes. There were just 2 jurors who we heard from our court watcher that were making a lot of notes and asking a lot of questions. Although I think a couple more have asked questions since then. Hope those 2 both get to deliberate. The engineer. Yeah, we think one's an engineer. For every question, we can ask more questions. This is a key part for the state's case. If the jury doesn't understand what the state's been trying to lay down here, that's a problem. It would be a big problem if we're hoping for a conviction. This could be some of the most insightful questions of the trial. Yeah, what questions do you have, if I could submit them for you? Larissa, do it one more time and make sure you answer the very last question as well. Scroll down to the bottom. Sometimes people answer the top 2 and miss the bottom ones. We try to approve everyone. It might have been an accidental denial as well.
Jury, one of you wins the best handwriting of the trial award with your question today. So you get free water. And I have no objection from counsel, sir. Some questions from the jury.
They're all coming in.
Were any fingerprints taken on the gas can left in the front yard collected at 1:40 January 8?
I did not collect any fingerprints. I just collected the can.
Any evidence of a phone, landline wiring during the excavation?
I did not locate any, but I also wasn't specifically looking for telephone communications during the excavation.
Do you know what happened to the, quote, container that Todd Stermer was transferred in from near the house to away from the house? Did you ever see it?
What's been referred to as a toy boat. I've never seen it.
For this specific investigation, did you already determine origin and cause before excavating the site?
No.
Good question.
Do you believe investigating a fire is best to do right away or days later?
These are great questions.
That depends on the case, of course. In this case, I am a strong advocate of not investigating a scene at night, especially right after the active fire. Because active fire, even if the fire's out, the scene is still steaming. There's a lot of steam coming off, so fogs up camera lenses and you can't see as well. And it's just, I always prefer to do investigation in the daylight. I've done them days after, but it's always better the sooner to the event, and the sooner to the event possible is always better.
Is there ever a scenario in an investigation for you to return to the site?
Yes.
Was there any reason for you to return, in your professional opinion?
This question is going to call for 18 years of experience since the fire and a lot of hindsight. So, and that's yes.
Good, honest answer there.
In hindsight and more experience, I could have returned. It would have taken some more hoops to jump through to get there, but I could have.
Defense is going to love that one. Maybe even ask to
When
get
you
into
arrived at the house and were told it could potentially be a crime scene, did you take into consideration while doing your investigation that Ms. Stermer's interview may not have been accurate?
I would have taken Linda Stermer's interview at just face value, not just take it at face value and not try to determine truthfulness or not truthfulness, because I wouldn't have enough information, so I would just take it at face value.
Okay, thank you.
Audrey
Counsel,
Henry.
any questions in light of the questions and answers?
No, Your Honor.
defense. Are
Mueller?
they going to jump on that? What would you have done differently? Audrey Henry, thank you for the gift of memberships. 5
You
people.
took Linda Stermer's statement at face value, correct?
Yes.
But her statement as to the origin of the fire also corroborated the physical evidence that you had found, correct?
Yes.
Which was the area of origin living room as opposed to the kitchen or dining room.
Correct.
So that was consistent, and that physical evidence corroborated her statements, correct?
Correct.
And her statements corroborated your physical investigation.
Correct.
Now, certainly you were aware of this boat that Todd Stermer had been transferred in.
Yes.
Because it's in your report.
Correct.
You just chose not to consider it, fair?
I did not look at it.
It wasn't going to be the source of the fire. He's looking for the source of the fire, the origin. Something that happened after the fire is not what he's looking for.
And you certainly could have requested that the gasoline can that was found in the front yard be tested for fingerprints. That's within your purview.
I could have, but I left that to the other detectives on the case.
And as to return to that question about returning to the scene, you certainly could have returned to the scene. Nothing prevented that.
Correct.
And are you telling us, based on now 18 more years of experience, you would have returned to take pictures of the excavation that you knew you had to take before?
No, I never said that. I would return to document more evidence.
Okay. You would have, I'm sorry.
I would have returned probably with Jim Shinsky.
You would have returned to document more evidence, but you knew in 2007, as a 6-year veteran, you need to document evidence.
Yes.
And a digital camera is simply just pushing a button.
Correct.
You took 138 pictures, right?
Correct.
But again, as you said, you simply forgot.
Objection, Your Honor, this has been asked and answered.
It has been asked and answered.
And any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And you still done?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
No more jury
do you have any
questions?
other questions of this witness? Okay, I've got a hand going up. I think one.
It will never end. We live here now. One more question and a series of answers. Oh my goodness. This we've been a full day on this guy. We've only had one witness. Now, I think that we've got some great witnesses coming up. I think we've got possibly her sons. That would be fantastic if we get into that. But I also think we're probably nearing the end of the state's case, so we'll see where we go from this. No objections. There we go.
Objection from counsel. Did you note any fuel in the cans in the shed?
I did not.
Thank you. Questions? Any questions, lawyers, in light of that?
No.
None, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Any more from the jury? Nope. Okay, thank you, sir. You're all done. And is he excused from his subpoena obligation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excused? Agreed, counsel?
Yes.
To excuse him? Thank you, sir. You're all done.
He's already out of here.
Ms. Ayden?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you call Cynthia Deloach to the stand, please?
Cynthia Deloach.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Yes.
Come get your stuff, people. Cynthia Deloach, you are up next. He is free. Run! Run, Forrest! It's funny, Christy. It's a big yellow bin. I have one of those. Sir, can you get out of the way so the witness can take the stand?
Thank you. Ma'am, if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please have a seat. And then you can move that microphone right up to your mouth so the jury can hear you.
Okay.
And if you could start by telling us your full name and spelling the last, please.
Cynthia Deloach, Deloach.
Thank you. Ms. Ayden?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Deloach, you don't have to tell me your exact address, but where do you live? What city or township?
Lawrence.
How long have you lived there?
Since 1980.
And did you, while living in Lawrence, have an opportunity to know who Todd Stermer was?
In passing, like at the gas station where I had worked, I had seen him there. I also worked at the school, so sporting events, things like that. I knew of him.
Knew of him?
Yes.
And did you know Linda Stermer?
In the same way, yes.
Yeah. Had you seen them at school?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And were you familiar with their children?
Yes.
And did you have children in school at the time?
My children were older than them, but my nephew was very close to one of the boys. So, yes, I had seen him in numerous places.
And so when you say one of the boys, you mean one of the Stermer boys?
Yes, yes.
Do you recall where you were working on January 7th of 2007?
Yes, I was at the Marathon gas station in Lawrence.
Right there in Lawrence?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what was your position at that time?
I was the cashier there.
And how long did you work there?
A total of 18 years, but I think at the fire time it wasn't, maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
So.
And you brought up at the time of the fire, do you remember the day of the fire?
Yes, I do.
Why do you remember the day of the fire?
I just remember the fact we're a small town, and I worked that morning. My husband and I had taken our son to the movie in Coloma. We were on our way home. We had to pull over for the Hartford Fire Department coming down Red Arrow. We got to like Red Arrow and 681, and then we pulled over for the Bangor Fire Department also that were coming into town.
And later on, did you learn then what those fire trucks were going to?
Yes, but when they were coming into town, I had said to my husband, I said, we should follow them, because I was worried about my parents. They were old, and it was always a big thing when we heard a siren in the family. We always called my mom and dad to make sure they were okay. So we were heading towards their direction, and the fire trucks went around the curve, so we just took the big block and went home because it didn't go in the direction of my parents.
You just wanted to make sure they weren't pulling into your parents' driveway?
Yes.
And you remember that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, did you become aware that the fire trucks were going to the Stermer residence?
When we went around the curve, you could see them heading down 215, but I didn't know what driveway they were pulling into, no. But later in the evening, through my sister-in-law, is how we had heard of the fire.
Who's honking?
Have you been to the Lawrence gas station recently?
Yes.
Is it set up the same as it was when you worked there?
No, it's totally different now. It's all opposite. Like, it's bigger. The entrance is at the other end now. The register is at the other end of the station. So everything is completely different.
Is it kind of flip-flop?
Yes. Yes.
And what was your typical shift that you would work on like a Sunday?
7 till noon.
Do you recall if you saw Linda Stermer? I'm sorry, I thought you were stopping me for a moment. Do you recall if you saw Linda Stermer the day that you were working on January 7th of 2007?
Yes, I do.
And that would have been before you saw the fire trucks then later that evening?
Yes, long before that.
During your shift?
Yes.
Tell me what you remember about seeing Ms. Stermer at the gas station that day.
I remember her pulling into the station because she had made an outside purchase at the pump. So the reason I knew it was outside because it makes a dinging inside and we have to clear the register and turn the pump on. And I remember her pulling in like on the west side of the parking lot and then pulling up to pump 3, which would put her on the south side of the pump right next to the building. So my view was right out the window to that.
So you have a clear view of...
Yes, ma'am. With the old station, yes.
With the old station. And you said you recalled her, you knew she was at pump 3?
Yes.
And you had to look out before you turned the pump on, is that right?
Yes, because the lady that owned the station was always you had to check first in case the credit card didn't work or something. You would know who the person was if they were to like pull away when they were done.
It was a safety feature.
Yes, yes.
And tell me what you saw when you looked outside that day.
She had, I'm not as positive if it was like my mom's old car, and she had a Blazer. So you turned the glass, and then you lifted up the top.
Where are you talking about where the glass and the handle would be located?
In the very back of the vehicle.
So in the rear of the vehicle?
Yes.
And you described it as like a glass with a handle?
Right, and you would just, pick it up, and then the window would go up to the top.
Kind of like where the trunk would be, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you saw Ms. Stermer then opening up that glass?
Yes.
And lifting it up?
Yes.
And then what did you see?
Her putting the hose into the car.
Whoa.
Not into the gas pump, into the gas tank, into the back window.
So when you say not into the gas tank, you mean the tank of the car?
Correct.
Don't do that.
And you distinctly remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that point, you couldn't see what she was pumping into, is that correct?
No, I could not.
But you distinctly saw her putting the hose through the half window into the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
That's terrible. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
And do you recall what you saw after that?
No, because I'd gone about what else I was doing. She was done out there, and then she had came back into the station, though, after that.
So when one transaction is done, are you alerted at that time?
Yes, it dings that it's all done.
So then, did you hear that ding?
Yes.
And did you see her at that point?
I saw her outside of the station.
And then what did she do after that?
She came into the station then.
And then what did she do in the station?
She had made a comment. I remember we both were speaking to each other about the fact that she was happy that the lady that owned the station carried things in the store that, like breakfast food, food of any type or whatever. And she purchased a few things, and then she was done.
Do you recall what she purchased?
No.
If I were to show you the receipt.
I'm going to show you what's been marked, what's actually been admitted is People's Exhibit 30-1 and 30-2. Okay. Do you recognize these items?
Yes, this is register tapes that when they're empty, when we're done with them, they go underneath the counter in a box. Yes.
And do you recognize the flat piece of paper, which is then 30-2?
Yes, it's a receipt.
I'm going to go ahead and put that receipt up on the screen. And I'm going to have you then describe the receipt and what we're looking at. So I'm going to start at the top of the receipt, so you can either use it from the screen or from what you have in front of you.
Okay.
Can you tell us what we're looking at the top of the receipt here, this top section?
The top section
Got a lottery
is
ticket.
a purchase of gas that someone had made for $10 up top at the very top.
So when you say at the very top, you're talking the $10, you're
Yes.
talking the 10, the number 10 right up here?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you know that that's gas?
Because it says unleaded fuel pump 2.
Unleaded fuel pump 2.
Yes, number
$2
sign 02.
0.169 cents per
Mine is
gallon.
higher than yours. I mean, mine shows more than what's showing up
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry. So
Okay.
you're higher.
Yes.
I apologize. So that is a different transaction on pump 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
I apologize. I was probably confusing you.
That's
so I'm
okay.
going to have you go beneath that $10 and then
Okay.
just go ahead and then start telling me then what is beneath the $10, which I'm going to say which would be starting at this line. If you could then read that to me. Like, just explain that portion.
Okay, the pump 3?
Yes, the pump 3 part.
Okay, it says outdoor sale, pump number 3. It gives the date of 1/7/07 at 10:07. And it was an authorization that the pump was cleared and that the credit card had been used. And then it also gives the approval code for your the approval of the credit card.
So is the approval code this long number here that I've got my dot on? Is that the approval code?
No, the approval number is 0075 or 7598 in the amount of 1101.
Ketsy, welcome. 15 months. Thank you so much.
I'm going to have you show me on the receipt where we're looking at here.
Okay, so here's the authorization and here's the approval code right here. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Blair. Can you go down farther? I'm not far down. That's why. Okay, so the authorization code you're looking at is right here.
Yes.
The 007598. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then it says the outdoor sale pump 3. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is the date you're referring to of January 7th of 07 at 10:07. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Right before the fire.
Now, at the time, were
The
you
morning
aware if that 10:07 was the correct time?
No, it wasn't, because when the time changed in the fall, Sue, our owner, did not manually change the register.
So it would have been an hour off?
Right.
Would
So,
the correct time have been, do you know what the correct time?
9:07.
9:07.
Yes.
Okay. And so this shows the outdoor sale pump, the approval code. Where's the amount then for the outdoor sale?
It's amount 1101, right next to the approval code.
Oh,
See, amount 1101.
right here, right where my dot is?
Yes.
And so that would have been the amount of the outdoor sale, 1101.
Yes.
Okay. And then if we continue down, what is this long number, the account number?
The account number of the credit cards used.
Okay. And then if we then move down a little
Whoa.
bit farther, we see taxable, non-taxable, non-taxable, non-taxable. What is that?
Those were the items that were purchased in the store.
In the store.
Yes.
And that would have been then the numbers we're looking at here, $1.29, $2.29, $1.59, $2.49, correct?
Yes.
And that would have been a total then of $7.74?
Correct.
And you said this is inside.
Yes.
And how do you know
Non-taxable
it's
would be food.
inside?
Right?
Because I rang it up inside with her card, in the inside sale.
And then if I go down to the next section where it says MasterCard, can you then describe what we're looking at here with these names and numbers?
Right. It says the MasterCard was used. It was Todd J. Stermer's card, the account number that is on the card, and then it also has the approval that it went through on that.
Would that be that authorization number?
That would be the account. Yes, ma'am.
Right here, the 007233?
Yes.
Okay.
94
And then
cents.
that also has the date and time?
Yes,
And what's
10:09. 10:09, but it would be 9:09.
9:09. And same date of January 7th, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, do you know what non-taxable and taxable items are?
Well, non-taxable would be anything you could eat.
Right.
So non-taxable then would be anything you could eat.
Right.
Could be a candy bar, could be eggs, could be anything.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And then taxable would be anything you can't eat.
Correct.
Like gum.
And I want to ask you about these numbers. So the long number I asked you about up here.
Yes.
The 55809, several numbers.
Yes.
Is that the same number that we're looking at then on the indoor portion?
Yes, it is. It's the same credit card used.
Same credit card used outside as used inside?
Yes.
Anything else on this receipt that would be pertinent then to that indoor sale or that outdoor sale that I'm missing?
How much gas
No,
did she
I don't
use?
think so.
She bought 89 cents worth of gas, half a gallon.
And did you see anybody else with Linda Stermer that morning?
No, there was not.
She was by herself. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
That's got to be one of the most confusing receipts I've ever seen. And the fact
Nobody
that it's the full
came
credit card number.
to you right away. Or let me rephrase that. Did somebody come to you immediately after the fire to talk to you about this transaction?
Not immediately, no.
No. How did it come about that you became involved?
There was a person that always shopped in the gas station, Deputy Wydick, and Tim would always ask me, did someone talk to you yet? And I said, no. Whenever they need to talk to me, they'll find me. I would tell him all the time.
I'm going to object to that. It's hearsay.
Objection, hearsay.
I'm not offering for the truth of the matter, only that how she became involved in the investigation.
Effect on the listener.
I'll allow it to explain her late statement.
So don't tell me maybe exactly what deputy, you said Wydick?
Yes.
Yes. So he would come into the store.
Mm-hmm.
He would bring it up to you.
Yes.
And at some point then, did you call somebody, or how did you become involved after you talked to him?
I came home one day and there was a card on my front door to get a hold of Mr. Maziowski at the Sheriff's Department.
And so did you do that at that time?
Yes, I had called him as soon as I came in the house and had that card.
Were you expecting that call?
No. Mm-mm.
Did you want to be involved?
No. Mm-mm.
But yet you called Detective Maziowski?
Yes, and he asked me if we could meet together. He had asked me to come that day, but I couldn't come that day. I went the next afternoon.
And then you explained to him what you explained to this jury today?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. DeLoach.
Yes.
How long have you stated that you, first of all, you stated that you have worked at this Marathon. Is it a convenience store or is it a gas station?
It is both. It's a convenience store, gas station. It is a bigger convenience store now that has a new owner.
Okay. And the location of it was where?
On West St. Joseph Street in Lawrence.
And you stated that it has been completely redesigned?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the 18 years that you worked as a cashier at the Marathon service station, have you ever seen anyone pull up to the gas pump, get out of their car, open up the trunk of their car?
Yes.
Have you ever seen anyone pull up to the pump in an SUV, get out of the car, open up the back hatch of the SUV?
Yes.
Okay. On multiple occasions, right?
Yes.
Didn't find anything suspicious about that either, would you?
No.
Okay. Now, on the date of January the 7th of 2007, What was the weather like?
It was a little bit chilly in the morning when I went into work. It was winter time still, so I would say cold.
Was it raining?
No, not in the morning.
Had it snowed? Was it snowing?
No. We had snow prior, but it wasn't snowing that morning, no.
Was the sun out?
I think it kind of was a little bit.
Do you wear glasses?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In 2007, were you wearing glasses?
I don't remember if I had my glasses. I think I probably did, yes. Yes.
Do you know whether or not you was wearing your glasses? That day on January the 7th of 2007?
No, I probably wasn't because I didn't need them as much back then as I do now.
Do you know what your vision is in 2007?
No, pretty well, I guess. I don't know.
You didn't know what your vision was?
No.
Oh, no.
Did you have to wear your glasses to read, or?
Like I said, I didn't wear glasses as much back then as I do now. I just didn't. My vision was probably pretty good back then.
But you had to have glasses?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, did you know Miss Linda Stermer prior to January the 7th of 2007?
I knew of her, yes.
How did you know of her?
Like I said, we lived in a small town. I also worked a full-time job at the school. So I've seen them at sporting events, school events, in-town events, you know.
Okay. Just as common residents of the area, right?
Not close friends. I didn't know her on a personal basis, no.
You've never been to her house?
No.
Okay. Never met her husband, or had you?
At the gas station. I have him and the boys used to rent movies there quite a bit.
Okay. And what all does the gas station sell?
Gas, alcohol, groceries, chips, you know.
Lottery tickets?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Were you at the time part of the custodian of records there at the gas station?
Could you repeat that?
I say, did you have anything to do as the custodian of the records at the gas station?
No, I did not.
You did not?
No.
And you stated that the time that you referenced to on the receipt that was shown on the screen, that this time was 9:03, but you stated that that was, or is it 10:03, 10:06:55, but you stated that wasn't the correct time?
Correct.
And that was because the owner didn't want to change?
She manually, when the time changed, she manually did not remember to change it in the register.
So it was an hour earlier?
Yes.
That you would say that your observation of what you saw of Miss Stermer
Yes.
would have been 9:06, is that correct?
Yes.
It was in January.
Now,
spring forward. Fall
did
back.
Miss Stermer come inside the store and have a conversation with you about any purchasing of any other items other than the gas?
She came in and purchased some items in the store, yes.
Okay. Did she have a conversation with you?
She just said she was just picking. It was very nice of the lady that owned the station that she carried grocery items there.
That makes
It
sense.
was very
Thanks,
small
Rich.
talk.
Okay.
Like matches, lighters, sedatives, frying pans, things like that.
So the purchase of the gasoline, was it purchased inside the store or was it purchased at the pump?
That was purchased at the pump.
Was it purchased at the pump?
Yes.
with the same credit card that
Yes.
the other items inside the store was purchased with?
Yes.
Okay.
Did she put some gas into the car and some into the gas can inside the back seat?
Now, where were you? Well, let me just go back. After Ms. Stermer purchased the items and left, you didn't have any reason to suspect anything about any unusual activity that occurred at that pump by Miss Linda Stermer, right?
No, I did not.
Absolutely nothing that would give you any reason to think that anything was done that would be suspicious, right?
No.
She was just a common customer like all your other customers, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you heard about a fire later on that evening, right?
Yes.
Purely coincidental.
But you didn't know where the fire was, right?
Not when I saw the fire trucks. No, I did not.
Okay. And when did you find out where the fire was?
When I spoke with my sister-in-law, who is my nephew is a friend of one of the Stermer boys, and that's when I found out. It was much late into the evening.
Okay. And did you make a statement that you had seen Miss Stermer earlier that day at the service station, at the gas station?
I don't think I did.
You didn't?
I don't think so.
That wouldn't have been something that would have caught your attention, the fact that you had seen the mother of one of the sons whose house had been burned, that you had seen them?
When I was on the phone with my sister-in-law, I said I had seen them in the morning. I had seen them in the day, but I said that's horrible. I mean, it was enough out of sadness. I had seen, you know.
Yeah. But my question is that in a small town, you hear the fire trucks, you later on find out that the fire was at a location of a home of someone that you didn't know real well, but you knew them as town residents because of the school activities, and that you had also seen one of the parents at your location where you worked that morning. So when your sister called you and told you...
Your Honor, is this a question?
Well,
I mean,
yes, it's going to be a question, Judge.
Very long testimonial here.
Well, it's going to be a question, Judge.
Yeah, if you could get to the question, please.
Did you tell your sister that you had seen Miss Stermer earlier that day at the store?
She just answered that she did say that. She said, you know, how horrible she saw him. She already answered the question.
Did she answer the question, Judge?
I'll let you ask that last question again.
Yes. That's the question.
Yeah, just the question, your last question about did you tell?
Did you tell your sister that you had seen Miss Stermer earlier that day?
I said to my sister-in-law, oh my God, I had seen her this morning. Yes. And I said, what a horrible tragedy.
Yeah. And you told her that you'd seen her?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's all I want to know.
She's told you several times.
Who was the other person that you stated that you had a conversation with about Miss Stermer?
I don't understand what he's getting at.
Did you have a conversation with someone else after you talked to your sister about Miss Stermer coming to the gas station?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. How did you wind up having a card at your home from Detective Macioski?
Probably from Detective Wydick.
Okay. Detective Wydick?
Or a policeman Wydick. I don't know. A deputy, I should say.
Did you have a conversation with him?
Not that day, no.
But I just said, did you have a conversation?
I wouldn't really call it a conversation. He would just come in and ask me if I spoke to anybody from the sheriff's department. I would say, no, Tim, no, I haven't.
Let me ask you this. Was it a common practice for this detective to come, this deputy to come into the gas station and ask you, had you had a conversation with anybody from the police department or the sheriff's department?
It was common for Tim to say anything he wanted to people. He was a very open person, I guess.
Okay. And being an open person, he just asked you, did you know what?
He asked me if I was in contact with anyone, and I said, if they need me, they know where I'm at, is all we ever spoke.
Why would he ask you if you had been in contact with anyone?
I don't know.
That does call for speculation. I'll sustain.
Did he tell you why he was asking you if you had been in contact with anyone?
No.
And who was the anyone he was talking about? If you know.
This calls for speculation. I'll sustain the objection.
He's trying to get at how did they know to talk to her? We don't know that yet, unless the sister told somebody.
And at some point in time, you stated that you received a card, you had a card at your house.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
In your door?
Yes.
From Detective Macioski.
Correct.
And you contacted Detective Macioski.
I think they
After
found
I
the
received
receipt.
the card, yes, I did.
Didn't they find the receipt in the car or something for it? That could be why they found it.
What did you have to go and have an interview with Detective Macioski?
Yes.
Where?
At the sheriff's department at his office.
Okay. So what did you tell Detective Macioski?
I answered all the questions that he had for me.
He already had questions for
Well,
you?
he asked me, did I work that day? I said yes. He asked how long I was at the gas station that day. He asked if I had waited on Mrs. Stermer. I said yes. So, yes. I guess the basic questions he needed answered.
And that was it?
Yes.
You didn't tell Detective Macioski that you saw Miss Stermer putting gasoline in any other part of the car other than the gas tank?
Whatever questions he asked me, I answered to him. I don't remember exactly what questions word for word he asked, but the gas was discussed that day.
He said what?
I said the gas was discussed that day. He asked me if she purchased gas, and I said yes.
Okay. And did you tell him that you saw anything unusual about her purchasing the gasoline?
I just told him that she pulled up to the pump. She opened up her back window just like I had said, and she put the hose into the vehicle and started pumping the gas into the vehicle.
It's not how you fill a car.
Yes, not through the gas tank. Into the back window of the vehicle.
And you saw that?
Yes, through the window.
Where were you at in the gas station?
Right in front. There was the whole front of the gas station was windows.
This lawyer's like,
Do you recall testifying in a prior hearing in this case?
Yes, I do.
It's not a good idea for a couple of reasons. One of the primary ones is static electricity.
In a prior hearing.
Your Honor, I'd ask that he ask this in a proper form, and he wants to ask if she remembers testifying, and she needs to have her memory refreshed before he just starts going on to the question.
I just asked her, did she recall testifying in a prior hearing, Judge? And if she would just let me.
And she said
you
yes.
You recall testifying in a prior hearing in this case?
Yes, I do.
You recall testifying that the gas was being pumped in the car?
Through the window, I said yes.
You don't recall it?
Pardon me?
Do you recall testifying at a prior hearing in this case, right?
Yes.
And you were asked, you didn't actually see gas being pumped into anything, did you?
I did not see a container or a can, no.
I'm sorry, you said you didn't see a container or...
A container or a gas can,
can.
yes.
And your answer was no, right?
Pardon me?
And your answer was no, right? You
Yes.
didn't see...
No.
Did you see Ms. Stermer making any other type of moves other than just standing there by the car?
No, I did not.
You did not?
No. She was just standing there.
So from her vantage point, she could not
And
see
you
the
never
gas.
saw a container?
No, I did not.
And after she purchased the gasoline, did she come back into the store
Yes, she did.
and purchase some other items?
Yes.
And you only had one interview with Detective Maciowski in reference to this, is that right?
Yes. We did meet at another time, and that was about going over this a little bit. He was asking me to explain that to him, and he came to the gas station to have me explain that to him.
Explain this receipt to him?
Yes, to break it down for him.
Okay. You didn't have the receipt when you went to his office?
We didn't talk about the receipt at the office, no.
So you didn't even talk about the amount of gasoline that she had purchased or the items that she had purchased?
We had talked about her purchasing gasoline and items, but not a specific amount or anything. We did not talk about this part, no.
Okay. Do you know if there was a surveillance camera at the service station?
I don't think that we used to have old VHS tapes that Sue used to use, but I don't know if it was working, if it was even still in working order or used then at that time. No, I don't.
You don't recall if it was operating on that day?
That has been asked.
Did Mr. Maciowski ask you for any surveillance tapes?
No, he did not. He didn't ask me for any of this kind of stuff. He dealt with that with the owner.
Do you know if the owner...
Objection, Your Honor. She's just speculating.
Well, I haven't heard his question yet.
I could have said, do you know the owner's name, Judge?
I'm waiting to hear your question.
Do you know if the owner provided any type of surveillance tape to Mr. Maciowski? If you know.
I don't know any of that, sir.
So objections sustained.
But you had seen a surveillance tape there at the assistant that was installed at the service station, right?
We used to just see the VCR tapes in the back room. They weren't, I don't know if they were used or not.
But you knew that there was a VCA system.
Yes, yes.
Was it operating that day?
I don't know.
She said she doesn't know.
I have just a second, Judge.
mean, not a quick conference.
This witness is like, she's so frustrated. She's working as a gas station attendant. This is not a fire investigator. She's not a police detective. And asking all these questions, do you know if this was working? Like, not my job, okay? I ring up the customers. I bag the groceries. When the delivery guy comes, I open the door for him so he can fill the fridge. That's it.
Do you know what the price of gasoline was in 2007?
The receipt here says $2.16, 0.9 a gallon. Maybe? I don't know.
That sounds about right. $2.16 a gallon. If she paid and got $11 worth of it, that's basically 5 gallons.
You don't know? Or is it $2?
Just what the receipt says, I said.
Okay. And you said that she purchased $11 worth of gasoline, right?
$11.01.
Yes. Okay. And do you
more
recall
than would fit in that gas can?
When you was actually by year that you were contacted by Detective Maciowski?
Back in June of 09, I think it was.
June of 09.
Yes.
2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Well, June. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's got a great memory.
Do you recall from a previous hearing that you stated that you went to the police and told Deputy Wyrick that you thought you may need to talk to the police?
No. Like I said, Tim would come in the gas station and ask if I had spoke to them. I never went to him.
You never went to him?
No, no.
But Detective Wyrick, Deputy Wyrick, that would have also been 2 years after the fire of January the 7th of 2007, right? Approximately 2 years. And
When I spoke with Mr. Wydick?
Yes.
No, Tim would ask that all the time, coming in the gas station. And that was right after the fire, to numerous times when he would come in there. I mean, like I said, I did not go to him. He came to me.
When you say he came to you, he was just coming in, as you stated, that because he was just
a customer,
an outgoing person, that he would just make a conversation?
Yes, he would come in for his free coffee and stand there and ask questions. Yes, they always they would always get free coffee.
And you were just basically engaging with him in conversation about, have you heard anything about this fire, or have you heard anything about the Stermer's fire? He would just kind of open up a conversation periodically when he came in with you. Is that correct?
Like that, something like that.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but
Right.
Misty Harris,
you had
congratulations.
to know Tim.
So it pretty much
11
was kind
months.
of like a information gathering conversation, right? If you heard anything, if you knew anything, right?
No, I think it was more or less, has anybody talked to you? And I would tell him, no, Tim, but if they need to find me, they will find me. And I would just leave it go at that. I did not want to be in that, you know.
Need you or find you in
Yes.
reference to just
To speak
because
to me,
you started
yes.
to purchase some gasoline, right?
Just to speak to me, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay. And then Detective Maciowski waits until 2.5 years, and then he contacts you with a card at your residence. Is that correct?
He left a card at my residence. Yes, he did.
She wants to be done. See if the jury asks any questions. I think the big question here that's out there is that she purchased $5 worth of gas. And did this witness see her purchase any fuel in the car itself, like pump it into the regular car before she put some into the gas tank that was inside the back hatch? Portable gas tank. Virginia Little. 16 months.
You said that Detective Maziowski contacted you in June of 2009, right?
Yes.
So when defense counsel said that was 2 years, it was actually a year and a half.
Correct.
And then when defense counsel said it was 2.5 years, it was actually a year and a half.
Yes.
So was that confusing?
Math is hard.
No, not really.
You knew it was still June
Yes.
of 2009.
Right.
And Tim came in the gas station a lot?
Yes.
Regular customer?
Uh-huh.
Regular of Lawrence?
Right.
Drink a lot of
Whether
coffee.
he was working or not, he was in there all the time.
Hey, free coffee.
And at the time of the day of the fire, you just knew the fire happened.
Correct.
You didn't know any details about the fire?
No.
You didn't know what had happened?
No.
You didn't know any details of the investigation?
No, I did not.
All you knew at that time is that Ms. Stermer came in and bought $11 worth of gas and bought some breakfast or some groceries.
Correct.
So you said that owner, I believe you called her Sue?
Yes.
Had the whole front window was all glass?
Yes.
And was that part of your security policy of watching out there and turning on the pump when it dinged?
Right.
And I think
yes.
you had testified that it was then something you did to make sure you knew who it was in case they drove away.
Right, because she was getting to the point where if you didn't pay attention to what was going on, people drove off with gas, she would always tell us, you're going to start paying for that.
So then you started watching.
Paying more attention.
And
Thomas.
you were asked the question, have you seen others
Podcast tonight,
pump
8 o'clock.
things into their trunk areas or their rear of their gas before, or the rear of their vehicle before?
Yes, but most people, when they would come in, they would always lay like their gas cans on the ground and pump them in, and then wipe them off and then put them back in their vehicle. But yes, I did see some people pull up that way.
And one last question. When you then saw that ding and looked out and saw Ms. Stermer with the hose into the blazer into the trunk area, did you continue maintaining constant surveillance until she came into the store?
No, I did not.
And what did you do then once you saw her?
I wiped up. Like I said, she came in, the pump cleared, she started pumping. I did see how she started pumping with the hose in the back window. And then I just waited a few seconds, and then I just went around the counter to the right side, and I was wiping off the coffee counter.
So you weren't staring at her the
No,
whole time?
no.
Once you saw her pumping into the trunk, you started doing your work there.
Right.
And then she came in at a later time.
Right. As soon as the pump dinged, I knew she was done, and then, she ended up coming in.
When did it ding? Would it ding when somebody
you
hung it
hang
up?
the nozzle up, yes.
So you didn't see if she then put any gas into her vehicle?
No, I did not.
But you wouldn't know if she put any gas into her vehicle after she put it into the back of the trunk?
Correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
There it is. I think a jury member just crossed something off on their list of questions with that cross redirect. I mean, it was good. Dizzy Grenade, congratulations on 12 months.
Just want to clarify,
Thomas,
Miss
26 months. Congratulations, my friend. Thank you.
In January of 2010, you testified in this matter, and you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And I asked earlier so I can get a clarification. You stated that you didn't actually see gas being pumped into anything, did you? And your answer was no. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I did not see a container or a gas can. No.
Okay. Okay.
He doesn't like the clarification.
And what we don't know is whether there was any gasoline being pumped at the time Linda was looking in the back of her vehicle. Isn't that true? And your answer was, I guess I don't. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And do you further recall, and the question was, no guesses.
Your Honor, I would ask that he ask her if she remembers it and he needs to refresh her memory versus reading the transcript.
Get to the question, just focus on the question that was asked and her answer if it's prior and consistent statement.
The question that was asked, you cannot say under oath that any gas was being pumped when Linda looked into the back of the vehicle. Isn't that true? And your answer was yes. You recall that testimony?
I remember her pumping gas into the vehicle is what I said, yes.
Okay. And the next question was, you never saw a container that day. Isn't that true?
Yes, I told
The answer was yes, right?
I never seen a container.
Yes. Now, what are you talking about when the prosecutor asked you about this ding? What was the ding that you were referred to?
When the pump is finished and they hang the nozzle up, it dings in the inside.
It dings inside?
Yes, yes. So then you know they're done at the pump.
Do you know what did? What did you say?
Listen.
When it dings, it means what?
It means the pump is done.
Okay.
They hung the nozzle up.
Right.
Yes, and then it goes ding.
And that's heard inside.
It's from the register sound.
Okay.
It's like does not compute. This guy's never worked at a gas station a day in his life. You mean they can tell if you're pumping?
Maciowski, that you didn't see any container.
Yes, I did.
You told him you did not see a container.
Yes, I did. I said I did not see. I saw the hose through the back window. I did not see it being pumped into a container.
And if gas was $2 a gallon, and she purchased, you stated, $11 worth of gasoline, right?
$11.01.
Okay.
Now the math is too hard for him.
How many gallons was that?
I'm not sure exactly how much it was because I don't remember if it was unleaded, was it regular? You know, I don't. Well, 4 point some gallons.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
And again, you didn't maintain constant surveillance, so you don't know if she then pumped anything into her vehicle.
Correct.
Selena K, thanks for gifting the membership.
Kelly, are you done? Okay. Anything else you good?
No further questions.
All right, let her go.
Jury, do you have any questions of her? Okay, I've got questions coming in.
Here come some questions. All right. Oh, wow. Okay, so here's what I think has been very clear through this witness. Looks like at least 2 pages of questions. She saw Linda Stermer pull up to the pump. She had a clear line of sight from inside the store. Linda was making a purchase outside, which has to be authorized. The pumping has to be authorized on the inside. So she was notified by the ding or whatever. So she cleared the pump. She allowed it to start pumping. In doing that, she saw that Linda had brought the hose around, opened the glass back of the blazer, and had put the hose into the back. She couldn't see the can that was back there, but she was putting, the hose back into the back. That's when the pump was engaged and doing some pumping. She couldn't tell if that was happening. Once she watched for just a couple seconds, she turned away, cleans the coffee counter. Later, a short while later, she hears a ding. That means the pump handle has been put back into the cash register or into the pump machine itself, and that she's ready to come in and pay. She does come in. She pays for the gas out there using a credit card, and then when she comes in, she pays for the groceries. It's like taxable, non-taxable, so mostly food items and possibly a lottery ticket on the inside using the same card. So she could have put gas in a small 1-gallon gas tank in the back of the car And once she had enough in there, she could have put the rest in her car herself, like into the gas, the regular gas tank. But she didn't see it herself. It's all good. It's all good. And then, yes, the police said, have you talked to anybody yet? There was an officer who kept checking on her. Have you talked to anybody? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Questions from the jury, no objection from the lawyers. When did you interview, well, I think this was asked, but I'll ask again. I think it's crossed off, but when did you interview with Maciowski?
It was in June of 2009.
When did Maciowski go to the gas station to clarify regarding preparation for the hearing?
I don't exactly remember the day, but I do know it was when the gas station was with the new owner, so I don't remember, because I remember going in the back room with him when we did it that day, so I don't know exactly when.
Have you ever seen Todd or Linda Stermer fill a gas can while it was still in one of their vehicles before, or did they commonly take it out and fill the cans on the ground outside the car?
I don't remember really. Todd usually came in and rented movies with the boys. I never really waited on him with gas, so I don't know.
Were you the only employee working that morning?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, any questions of her?
So one of the jurors' questions was, when did you meet with Detective Maciowski at the Marathon station for preparation? Was that actually for preparation?
No, it was just he was having me explain how this register tape was read.
So when you met with him at the sheriff's department, you didn't have a copy of the receipt to look at?
No.
And so it was like a second interview then to go over the receipt?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Kelly, any more?
Ms. DeLoach, you stated that Detective Maciowski came to the station, and it was after the new owners had acquired the station?
It was when the transition was different, yes. So it was when the new owner. So it was probably in, I would say probably 08, probably sometime in 09 when he came in to talk, because I'd already spoke with him once. So it was after that.
So did you speak to him in 09 and he came to the station in 09?
I spoke with him at the sheriff's department in 09, yes.
In 09, the very first time?
Yes.
And then he came to the station, and the station had been redesigned.
Yes.
When he came to the station.
And I don't know what year that was, but I just know he had the register tape apart, and he was trying to have me explain to him how to read that. To explain it in his terms, you know what I mean? Like the amount and, how that was used.
Did y'all talk about any?
No, I was just showing him about the tape.
Nothing about the exact amount of gallons of gasoline that was purchased?
No,
right?
I just explained to him how to read the tape.
Okay. And did Detective Maciowski ask you anything about the VCH surveillance that you all had at the
VCR?
That was never discussed, no.
Never
not
was
with me,
discussed?
No. That was something probably with the owner he did, not me.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, nothing further.
Jury, any other questions of her? None? May she be excused from her subpoena obligations?
I would ask that you please be excused, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
User? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. You're all done. Okay.
Run, Cynthia, run.
We'll take our afternoon break now? Okay. Okay, so jury, we'll take about a 15-minute break, and remember the rules.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do during the break. All right. Oh, wow. Where do you think this puts us? Can we put VHS in the middle? Yeah, we'll count that, even though it's an acronym. It was a made-up acronym. There we go. We'll put VCH on the list. Takes us to 27. Instead of video cassette recorder, it was video cassette. What? H? Something. Great witness. What does this do as far as moving the needle in the case for you guys? Hearing that she came and she got gas. Clearly, I think it's a logical assumption that you could make that she got gas in a container other than the back of her car.
Counsel, jury's left. Any matters to address in our break?
Your Honor, I'm just going to prepare the court that the next witness is going to be reading transcripts, so it's going to go back to a very similar style from Mr. Shinsky. So it's just going to be going through a lot of different transcripts. So when the court has had enough of transcripts, it can give me the A-OK, and then we can break for the day. I prefer to go as long as we can so that we don't have to have them come back tomorrow, but I know that that may be a lofty goal.
Okay. And I think the counsel said that you've worked out that you're in agreement on the transcript.
Yes, we met after court yesterday. We agreed. I met with both Attorney Meeks and Attorney Attorney Skip Kelly, and we went through everything. We redacted it together, and he received a copy of the transcript last night, and I checked with him today to make sure everything was in accordance with our changes and everybody agreed.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there a motion here this evening?
No.
Okay, so what I just talked about there, this is going to be fun. I realize it's going to be boring format of testimony, but the what comes in is going to be interesting because I think reading transcript is because we have a witness who is unavailable. She passed away. I think this is the jailhouse snitch. That's the judge's name for it. The jailhouse snitch who testified, I believe, in the first trial, or at least was interviewed, is no longer alive. She's no longer with us, unavailable, and now under the rule, which went all the way up to the Michigan Supreme Court, I believe, in this case. They fought this issue back and forth. They ruled that, yes, it can be, the transcript can come in to trial, and they're going to bring it in. So we're going to read the transcript from the snitch. The snitch, I think, if I remember the facts from the first trial, is going to tell us that Linda in jail told her, or was speaking about hitting him on the back of the head and injuries sustained to the back of the head for her husband Todd. So frying pan time. That's where we're at. So, good stuff, good stuff. Why buy gas in a container in January in Michigan? Snowblower would take 2-stroke fuel. I know some of the bigger snowblowers are 4-stroke. I want to know what about the gas station videos the boys rented. Yeah, show us those receipts. Very suspicious she got gas the day of the fire, right before the fire as well. And then the gas can was empty. The gas cans were empty. Where did she use the gas? What did she do with the gas? These are reasons she's not going to take the stand. She cannot answer these questions. How do you cross that testimony? Well, that's why it went to the Supreme Court. Unavailable witness. In this case, I think they will say we saw this. We saw this actually on. The terrible drawing trial. The snot running down. What was his name? Anyway, you guys remember that trial. Mark Jensen. Yes, Mark Jensen, Greeners. We saw it in that trial. We had an unavailable witness, I think for the same reason, where testimony was allowed in, but it was a retrial as well. So the judge, or the ruling was that because the witness was cross-examined initially, the transcript can come in because the witness was crossed by the defendant or her counsel at the time. And so it's not as if you're not crossing the witness at all. So previous cross. And that'll probably make the transcript a lot of fun because we're going to read direct and cross and recross and redirect and all back and forth. So good stuff. Maureen says, if I were at the jailhouse snitch, I'd be grateful I'm no longer here, if only because I wanted to face cross-examination by these attorneys. Oh my goodness. Yes. So hopefully they'll do voices. I'm thinking hand puppets would be favorable. I prefer to have hand puppets if that's a thing. If we could introduce those to courts, that would be great. But definitely voices for each of the players who are reading the transcript, and extra points if you act things out. Of course, wigs are good. Voices, act them out. Lots of inflection, and feel free to improvise. I mean, take it to the next level. Really become the transcript and feel it. And if you get in the groove, just say what comes into your head. So it'll be great. We'll love watching this. Unfortunately, it's not going to be that entertaining. It's going to be a little more boring. I think my kids have all my puppets. They're not in my studio anymore. Puppets be gone. I don't know where they're at. They brought in actors. Let's see. The last time we had a good reading with people who were specifically asked to read the transcript, I think was the ski crash case in Park City. Do you remember that? Do you remember the reading that happened in that one? Where they had like they were the paralegals for each side, each like playing roles, and they were a cute little couple for Paltrow. Yeah, they had like a cute couple. It was great. They were back and forth, and I think they started dating after that. I don't know. That's a rumor. So if you read transcripts with each other, you pretty much are dating. We need Tanika to read the transcript. She does a good job with Sarah Boone texts. Yes, surely not. She did. And shout out to her for finding out that I am in some of the Sarah Boone texts. I didn't realize I was. Bug Dugger gifted a membership. Congratulations, Blockish Owl. You were the recipient. She was chewing gum. I remember. Yes. It's the best. Court is not done for the day. We're just on a break. Hold tight. We're not going anywhere. This is our afternoon break. So after this, unfortunately, we're going to be reading transcripts till the end. So it's she's back already. There's no way. That was not 15 minutes. There's no way that was 15 minutes. So we're going to be reading transcripts till about 4:30, which is when this trial typically ends. I don't know if they have anything going on. So basically when the court gets tired of hearing it, that's when they're going to call it break and hopefully get through everything that we need to, because there may be multiple transcripts that are read. She said 10 minutes on the break. That's good. That's good. Tonight as well, please put it on your schedule. Click the subscribe button. Ring the bell. Get notified when we go live again, because we have the podcast tonight. Thomas and I will be back. We'll be back for y'all. Oh, and it's the first podcast of the month, so we're going to give away memberships. Free gifted memberships will happen on this podcast. So if you have been somehow eluding the green and you're currently gray and you have your gift setting turned on, you'll want to be here for that, because we'll gift those memberships at the beginning as well. So lots of fun, lots of reasons not to go anywhere else. By a show of hands, how many of you guys went and watched the during lunch break, the State Fair Tusk commercial? I think it's a California state. There's a county fair. I don't remember. Los Angeles County Fair or something like that. Did any of you do that? It's funny. It's funny. I'm just saying it's out there. The what? There's a commercial I was talking about, and I don't know why. Let me find it. I will link it for you. I will do the Google work. Let's see. I just can't play it for you because I'd get a copyright strike. California State Fair commercial tusks. Bingo. If this is from... Okay. I got it. Okay. There, it's in chat. Where did I post? Oh, I posted it in the old stream. Hang on. Wait. I'm an amateur. Give me a second. I'll post it in the new stream. It is only 31 seconds long, so you can watch it in another window and come right back.
More experience.
And we need someone with more experience. Thank you, Blackbird. Boomer. Yes. L.A. County Fair. It's funny. It's really funny. The podcast is on the same bat channel. You're right, Northwest, right here on this channel. And Bug Tugger, I knew if you held out long enough, you would link it. Yeah. It's just funny. It's especially funny for somebody who might have grown up in like a more rural community where the state fair was a regular thing, or the county fair was something that was that everybody participated in. And I mean, you grew up vegetables for it. Mom baked a pie for it. She canned vegetables for it. You grew a pig. You raised a pig to be 4-H. Everything else. Yeah, it's funnier if all that is foreign to you. You'll watch this commercial and you'll be like, I don't get it. Is it a boy cow or a girl cow? Hey, little Larry, how are you doing? Do we have an update on the DUI trial from Washington, the guy from Zoom who represented himself? I thought we had a verdict on that one. Didn't we bring a verdict in on that? I'm pretty sure I stayed up late and saved it and played it for you, but it might have been inside another video. Kiki's Garden. Says I'm originally from LA County and I feel victimized. Just cuddle up in the corner with your cashmere sweater and you'll be good. The one with the tusks, the tusks. I love a good commercial. That's an old one. It's going way back. 19 years ago. 19 years ago. It's older than this trial. All right. Does cashmere come from a cow? Let's see. Did you see the Credence and Mikey stream with the car chase crash? Oh, no. Zimmy, that is always my fear. I like watching those. I like watching a police chase, and some of them are absolutely wild, but they go from, and this goes back to my training when I was working in the news media, but they go from, hey, this is newsworthy and something we can show, to something that our channel would never show that in a split second. And you're always, just getting ready to cut away at any second because you want to watch the chase and see the police got the bad guy and that everybody's safe and nobody got hit. And at the same time, in a blink of an eye, you can suddenly have, bullets flying and cars colliding and people getting hit and lives being lost. And now it's terrible. But let's see. Our school started a week late because of the county fair. Is I've Had Enough Boss in the playlist? I think it is. I think it's in there. If it's not, let me know. I can add it. See, I grew up in areas where it was not uncommon to see that the teachers would basically give you a pass during deer hunting season because everyone was going to be gone anyway. I was not a big deer hunter, so I did not benefit from that. We still held school. They didn't cancel school, but they knew not to schedule tests or big things because just a lot of the class would be gone. Well, shows record seconds ahead to block out bad things. Yes, I can do that. I have the technology to do that. It's actually fairly complex to make it work, but we have run a buffer, especially in a court case where there's the court will be showing things that we don't want to show on the channel. Cheryl Ann, I heard that. I think she was like answering that Todd normally rents videos, and that she never served him as like a customer buying fuel for the cars or whatever. School in Brazil starts only after carnival. What is the point of hunting deer? Food. The food to get on the table. Somebody has to do the gathering. Apple Treasure gifted a membership. Thank you very much. The little Jen that could. You are the lucky recipient. Thank you. Yeah, food and population control. The deer in the area I lived are quite prolific, and they would their population would be high enough that they would end up getting hit by cars a ton, and that if you want to see a very inhumane way to take out a deer, look at a car accident. That's terrible, and then it can also hurt people. But she said most people put it on the ground to put gas in. The reason they do that is because putting it on the ground, you've heard of grounding things, putting something on the ground could ground the item so it doesn't have a static charge associated with the car, which is insulated from the ground because of the rubber wheels. If you have a static charge on a gas tank, which plastic does hold static charges fairly well, if there was for some reason a spark between, say, like the gas nozzle and the can or something, that spark, even though it's static, is enough that it can ignite the gasoline vapors, and you can have an explosion. How are the squirrels doing? How many squirrels have we had in our yard, little RA? I think there were 7 last I looked.
Once we found 15 animals.
Yeah, we've had 15. It's been the max. 15, and we're all out of bird seed and squirrel food. They're getting fat. They're getting super fat. And it used to be that when you came outside, like if you stepped outside the house, the squirrels up to the trees, into the nest, gone. They'd like top through the trees and be gone. Now they'll wait like 8 feet away and be like, you spreading any food out? What you got? What you got? So they're starting to like us. I think I'm not going to buy the squirrel food anymore, or the bird seed we got before. I think I'm just going to do those sunflower seeds, the bird seed sunflower seeds, because all the birds like the sunflower seeds, and the squirrels. It's the one thing they can all agree on. Honest question, how does one know if the deer was healthy before eating the meat? What if they had something? A lot of them do. Chronic wasting disease is a big issue, especially out in Mountain West. There are a lot of game meats where they have a parasite that doesn't harm people. I'm not big on eating them if there are bugs in them, but cook it right and you should be okay. It wasn't destroyed by the feed. It was a simple cleanup. I just had to make sure that she wasn't going to find anything. You can get the deer tested when you get it processed. Squirrels prefer organic walnuts. Chronic wasting diseases. It's bad. Any hummingbirds by me? Yes, but we don't have any feeders. we have enough wind that a lot of hummingbird feeders don't do well in a windy environment because there's a liquid that is usually gravity fed to the wind blows and it all pours out. So we got plenty of flowers, but we don't see as many hummingbirds here as we saw back out west. My squirrels will not eat sunflower or corn, only peanuts. My squirrels don't like peanuts or corn. They will eat sunflowers. I prefer cake, but I'm not getting it every day, says Sarah Sherwood. One day a deer came in and ate all our chilies. Deer like chili peppers? This is a long delay. Hummingbirds are feisty. They're also just beautiful, beautiful birds. And they adapt to changing environment very quickly. So if you have the patience and the arm strength to do it, set out a hummingbird feeder for a couple days with some good nectar that they really like. You can either buy the stuff at the Lowe's or you can make it yourself with sugar water. But you set that out, and once they get to really appreciate it and visit it often, especially in the evening time where they feed sort of like in the golden hour range before they'll go nest for the night. Go out there with a ladder and stand out there with your hand underneath one of the flowers where they would sit and just hold your finger out there. And they'll first fly in, they'll fly away, and then they'll come in. They want that food. They're waiting for it. They'll come in. They'll check you out. Sometimes they'll fly right up to your eyes and look at you and buzz right around. They don't stab you in the eye. I've never seen that happen. But I've held many a hummingbird, many on my finger, and they weigh next to nothing. You can barely feel them. Okay. 4 parts sugar to 1 part water. Do not use store red dye stuff. Yeah, dyes are no good. Although my sister, when she was in grade school, did a science fair project that won the school contest. She did a test to see which color of food coloring nectar they preferred. And I think she did red, yellow, and I think it was green. And the yellow one, hands down. Midlife Mania. Did the mockingbirds find the worms yet? Yes. Yes, the birds have they eaten all the worms out there? We've had the mockingbirds, we've had the cardinals, the jackdaws, I think you called them, or something like that. The blackbirds, it's like a starling but with a long tail and a little bit bigger. A couple starlings have been out there. Some of the regular, we call them chickadees or house wrens, the little tiny birds. The mockingbirds have been out there. Mockingbirds liked walnuts as well. I didn't know that. Yes, the lady was found. The mockingbird has not been singing at night, or he moved on. But I've seen multiple mockingbirds together. Hummingbirds love Mountain Dew. Oh, Carter, are you serious? I'm worried that would kill them. Their heart already goes like 7,000 beats per minute, and on caffeine, that would kill them. That would kill them. They might like it. I like Mountain Dew. It's going to kill me as well. Have a beautiful woodpecker. That's awesome. I'm still working on getting a yard cam, live nature cam. Here's my idea. Ready? Well, the judge is gone. I set up a pan tilt zoom camera that watches my yard and can, with 2 cameras, a wide view and a zoomed in view. And I use my son's AI program to analyze the image and detect where there's a bird or a squirrel and then control the pan tilt zoom to focus on that. So it would be actively, constantly seeing if the squirrel runs out of the frame, the camera would move and follow it. I think it's a great idea. Oh, Carter says it was a joke. Don't do it. Okay. Yeah, no Mountain Dew for squirrels. Hey, who's here? Hey, little R.A., how are you doing? Any water guy break-in update? No. We fixed the dilemma. I can't get broken into anymore, but still. Did you put the worms in your feeder? We did. They have not found the feeder yet, but they have found the worms that we spread out. We spread out some of those mealworms on the ground. Bathroom remodel update. It's making progress. I hope to get some walls built this weekend. All right, it's a generational thing, but are you accepting AI willingly? I hate AI. To some degree, especially when we control it and write the programs. I can use it as a tool. My son writes all the script in Python, and I tell him what I want it to do, and he makes it work. So it's not like some cloud information in the sky thing. It's happening right on my computer. Unless you're talking about songs, we do a little bit of songs on here. What is the delay here? I wonder if they're fighting over something in chambers. Just gonna buy me a mockingbird. Future Gaily May wants a diamond ring. And if that mockingbird don't ring, I'm gonna something. I forgot. Judge is back. Okay. Here's the transcript. Here we go. Are we ready? The actors were probably putting on costumes and wigs and getting the hand puppets ready. Judge is checking the email right now. Just type it in response. Everyone's ready. Here comes the jury. And we should get audio in just a moment. Right, they're going to have to depend on prior cross-examination, which is also in the transcript. I'd really like to hear this.
Your mouth and tell us your full name and spell the last, please.
So that was my fault. I apologize.
Stephen Willison, Willison.
Thank you. Ms. Ayden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Willison, what was your occupation in, actually, let me just start there. What is your current occupation?
I'm an attorney.
And how long have you been an attorney?
Since 1990.
And in 2007, were you working as an attorney?
I was.
And in what capacity?
I had my own law firm that did primarily work for insurance companies on property coverage matters.
And so when you say you did work for an insurance company, what was your primary role then with that company?
So we would help insurance companies determine their legal rights under the policy of insurance and determining whether or not a loss was covered typically, which most of my cases involved whether there was an intentional loss, which would not be covered by the policy of insurance, or if during the claims presentment process there was a material misrepresentation, which would also void the policy. So we would quarterback the investigation and the people, and then we would do what's called an examination under oath a lot of times, and then we'd pass our recommendations on to the company, and then they would make their own decision on the claim.
Can you explain to the jury what an examination under oath is?
Sure, it's a lot like, you may have heard of depositions, but it's a lot like that, although the court rules don't apply. There's a provision in the policy of insurance, and every policy of insurance, that says that you have to participate in this process called examination under oath, where we get to ask you questions under oath with a court reporter present, and have you give us your side of the story, explain things that we need to know about. We get into some of the details of what was going on before, during, and after the loss. It's kind of their chance to present their side of the story to the insurance company, and it's our chance to find out some details that maybe we don't have yet in the investigation.
And are these examinations under oath, are they recorded?
They are. There's a court reporter present.
And then are they transcribed?
And they are transcribed.
And did you have an opportunity to interview Ms. Linda Stermer?
Yes, we did an examination under oath in 2 parts with her.
In 2 parts? And
yes.
Do you recall the dates of those?
I believe the first one was in February of 07. I believe it was January 7, 07 was the fire. I think February 07 we did the first one. I think the second one was October of 07.
And both of those were transcribed?
They were.
I'm going to show you what's been marked People's Proposed Exhibit 35 and 36. If you could just take a moment and look through those and see if you recognize those.
These appear to be the transcripts of those examinations under oath, although these particular copies seem to have some redactions, some things that were apparently agreed to be taken out of them.
And so other than the redactions, the transcripts then are, there haven't been altered or changed other than those redactions from your original transcripts?
It would not appear so, no.
And, Your Honor, at this time I would move to admit People's Exhibit number 35 and 36 into evidence.
No objections, Your Honor.
Thank you. And as part, I want to, as part of your interviews in February and October, were you able to work with Ms. Stermer and draw out a map?
I believe particularly in the first one, we did ask, as she was describing where things were, both on the property and in the house, we had her draw out maps. I believe I had her sign them and made them exhibits to that examination.
So they're actually an exhibit then to those transcripts?
Correct.
And they're included in those transcripts?
Yes.
So I'm just going to show you a copy. And if you could just verify if that's been included in those transcripts and if that's a fair and accurate representation of what is in those transcripts.
Yes, I don't think I saw the exhibits in the binder, but yes, this was part of the transcript. This exhibit 4, and and the EUO Exhibit 3. 3 was the one that we had her sign on the inside of the house, and EUO Exhibit 4 was the one that we had her draw of the property, driveway, things like that.
Your Honor, just to be safe, I'm going to mark this then as People's Proposed Exhibit 37, just in case it's not included in those binders. And at this time, I would move then to admit the map that's included as part of the transcript, but we'll read it separately. And there are 2 pages.
Ma'am, I do see that those are the last 2 pages of Exhibit 36.
So, Your Honor, then I would withdraw the new number of 37. We'll go ahead and just not to confuse the record, we'll keep it as Exhibit 36. It's just 2 pages out of Exhibit 36. At this time, Your Honor, I'd ask for permission to publish the map to the jurors. And I do have, may the record reflect, I have 15 copies here, 1 for each juror as we're going through transcripts.
Okay.
And when you refer to an EUO, that's your examination under oath, is that correct?
Yes, EUO, examination under oath. So it's just a shorthand term of art in the industry.
And just to be clear, you had referred to this map then as an exhibit in your transcript, and then that is what that exhibit sticker is on that map.
Correct.
So not an exhibit sticker from today's hearing.
It is not, yeah, that is not a trial exhibit number. That was an EUO exhibit number. We had several documents that we collected during that process.
Thank you. So I'm going to have permission to publish then the transcripts, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and then put these up. We're going to start out with the February 27th of 2007 transcript.
Sure.
And we'll put that up on the screen. I'm going to start then, just have you verify the first page. You don't have to read the first page, but if you could just then verify the parties present and the date.
Sure. This occurred on February 27 of 2007. I was there. Mr. Jeff Getting was there, who was Linda Stermer's attorney. Rodney Thuma was a representative of the insurance company, was there, and the court reporter was Rebecca Kerr from Network Reporting.
I'm going to have you go to page 3, and I'm going to have you start about a quarter of the way down where it says Mr. Willison. And if you could just read to the jury from that statement down.
Line 10?
Yes, line 10 down.
My name is Stephen Willison, and I am the attorney for Farm Bureau Insurance. We're here today to take your examination under oath. That is a process by which you participate in the company's investigation of your claim and the events surrounding this loss. This is probably going to be part 1 because it's far too early to have any discussions about the details of your claim, but we did want to get together relatively quickly and talk about the details of the fire. Everything you say is being recorded and eventually will be turned into a typewritten transcript. So it's very important that all of your answers are with words. If you nod your head like you have done recently, or you say, or you point to something in a photograph, I may understand what you're saying, but there's no good way to type that. So from time to time, I may ask you to clarify.
I'll have you continue then through line 14 on the next page, which would be page 4.
Okay, whether you meant yes or no, or to describe what's very obviously what you're pointing at, so that we have a clean record. Okay, and then she responded, I understand. And then I went on. It's also important you understand that you're under oath today. So just like if we were in a courtroom, all the penalties of perjury apply. But maybe more relevant to your insurance claim, you need to understand that the policy of insurance says that if you were to even try to mislead the insurance company, that can be a reason to deny your claim and void your policy. Even if you were the world's worst liar and no one believed you for a second, just the fact that you tried is a reason to deny it. Okay? And she said yes.
And they're looking for that.
And you said that in one of those statements that you thought it was far too early. Can you describe to the jury why you felt it was too early and why you were conducting it then in February and then again in October?
Sure. Obviously, we knew that this claim involved the loss of life and was a total loss fire and was probably going to be big and complicated. And so putting together a claim on a total loss fire can take some time when you have to, if you think about every t-shirt that's in the attic and every little thing that's in your junk drawer, all has to be inventoried and valued and everything else, so that can take some time. But the facts of the fire, we wanted to get into early, and that's because we want to get to the root of it right away. If you are, if in this process you're going to choose to be honest with us, then your memory will be freshest then. And if you're going to choose to be dishonest with us, then you will have the least amount of time to come up with a story. So we wanted to get the details of the loss, the fire first, and then we would come back later and talk about the claim.
And I'm going to have you go to page 9, line 11, and just have you read to the jury then 11 through 15.
I asked, now, the day of the fire, the day before the fire, who was living at your house? She responded, our 3 sons, myself, and Todd. I asked, what about Brittany? She said, no, she was living in Florida.
I'm going to have you then go to page 13, line 13 through 19.
Page 13, line 13, you said?
Line 13, page 13, line 13, read through line 19, please.
I asked, how long were you and Todd married? She said, we were married in 1993. I asked, how long had you been in a relationship prior to that? She said, well, I don't recall exactly how long we were in a relationship before that. We met in 1989. I asked, how did you meet? And she said, my work.
I'm going to have you flip to page 14, and if you could read the entire page, please.
Oh, sure. My question was, since you were married in 1993, have there been any periods of separation? She said, no. Had either of you ever filed for divorce? She said, no. Had either of you ever discussed divorce? She said, yes. When did discussions of divorce start? She said, I don't know exactly. I know that. And then I interjected a month, a year, 10 years. She said, we had talked about it a few times over the last couple of years. My question was, whose idea was it? She said, I think Todd brought it up first. I asked, and then I just need to get a little bit of the flavor of the dynamics of the relationship between the two of you. Todd wanted a divorce and you wanted to stay together, or was it the other way around? I mean, what was going on when you were discussing it but not doing it? She said, I don't know that he was serious when he first brought it up. I think it was just kind of, I don't know, maybe we should get a divorce. I asked, when he first brought it up, what was your reaction? Did you agree or disagree? She said, I did not want a divorce.
And I will have you continue to page 15, if you could read that page for me as well.
At any point in time, did you decide you wanted a divorce? And she said, yes. I said, when did that start? And she said, maybe in the past year or so, and then we would talk about things and everything would be all right. And I asked, I know relationships are complicated, but was there any particular thing that was driving a wedge between the two of you? Any particular topic that was frequently discussed? She said, finances. I said, what about the finances? She said, we always seem to just not have enough money. I felt that Todd wasn't running his business as well as he could have been, and I felt he should work more. Am I doing this whole page?
Yes, please.
Okay. So then I asked, as in he wasn't doing it smart or he wasn't doing it often enough? And she said, well, I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I think if you're not doing it often enough, I don't think that's very smart. I said, that's true, but sometimes people work all day, all night, but they end up spending more than they make, and so it's not worthwhile. Other people are not working, and that's why it's, and she interjected, I just don't think he was putting enough effort. I said, okay, had there been any discussion of cutting back on any lifestyle or expenses or selling the house and getting a smaller place or selling off part of the property?
Now I'll have you read down to line 7.
And she responded, we had sold part of our property. I don't recall exactly what year. I think it may have been 2002 or 2003. So I asked, when you bought it, how much property did you own? She said, close to 120 acres. And I asked, and how much did you sell in 2002 or 2003? She said, around 90 acres.
I'm going to have you slip down then to line 18 and read just to the bottom of the page.
I asked, why did you sell the 90 acres? She said, so that we could build and pay off things that we owed. How much did you sell it for? She responded, I don't recall. I believe it was around the figure 99,000 is in my head for some reason, but I'm not sure if that was the exact amount. It seems that that was about, and I said, so about $1,000 an acre, and she said, I believe so.
And I'm going to have you read the next page.
How much debt did you pay off with that? She said, I don't know. I asked, was it enough to pay off the debt and build the house? She said, no. I said, so what did you do for the rest? We borrowed. From whom? Bill Fleetwood was her answer. I asked, who's Bill Fleetwood? She said, he's a gentleman here in Lawrence that Todd has done business with quite a bit over the years. And how much did you borrow from Bill? I'm not positive. I know it went in stages. I'm thinking that it was somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 100,000, but it was in stages as we needed different things. Do you still owe Bill today? She said, no. When did you pay off Bill? When we got our first mortgage on the property. I asked, when was that? She said, I believe that was in December 2003. I asked, how much was that mortgage? She said, $200,000. Keep going?
Please.
So then I asked, so you sold property and got roughly $100,000. You borrowed another 100, and then you borrowed 200. So your cost of construction was $300,000. She said, no. How much was the cost of construction? I asked. She said, I don't know. I asked, do you have an estimate? And she said, I don't.
I'm going to have you continue reading to the bottom.
You seem pretty confident it wasn't 3, and she said, right. I said, so what was it? She answered, I really don't know. I know that we paid off a lot of debt with it. I know that Todd made some business investments with some of it as well. I asked, well, what is your best understanding of how much each of those categories was? She answered, I really couldn't give you a good guess. I said, okay, do you think you had $100,000 of debt? She said, no, I don't believe we had. $50,000? She said, maybe. Then I asked, what kind of business investments are we talking about? And she said, Todd would buy military surplus, gloves, clothing, and then resell them to stores. Boots, like Mickey Mouse boots, that kind of thing. Mop suits, carbon suits, and that kind of stuff in large quantities.
And I'll have you stop there. And if you could go to the next page at the bottom on line 24, just read those last 2 lines in the next page.
I asked if they got a building permit to build the house, and she said yes.
And I'll have you read page 20.
Did you get it inspected? And she said yes. And I asked, what do you have in front of you? And she said, I went to Associated Governmental Services and got these copies of I think they're everything that Todd turned in order to begin construction of our home. I asked to begin construction. She said, I guess you have to file permits and drawings and diagrams before you can receive a permit to even begin. It gives a layout, but there were changes, significant changes made to it that are not reflected in those drawings. I noticed after I picked it up yesterday. Who did these drawings, do you know? And she said, Todd. I believe that Mr. Fleetwood helped him. And so then we marked that as Exhibit 1 to the examination under oath. I said, we've marked those documents that you gave us as Exhibit 1, right? She said, yes. We'll be back to your floor plan in just a minute. That tells us that you filed these in 1998, right? She said, yes. That wasn't the impression I got of how long you were building it. So what was the delay between 98 filing and beginning to build? She said, Todd had a knee surgery, and so he had to stop working on it completely, and so it sat for a few years.
I'm going to have you continue.
I asked, what did you do in 1998 to finance the beginning of construction? She said, well, the original plan was just to build it as we could afford to build it, and so we had a basement done, and we paid cash for that. Where did you have that cash? She said, what do you mean where? I said, how did you have that lump sum? I mean, she said, Todd, through working, just saved that amount and paid for it. So a rich uncle didn't die, you didn't get an insurance policy claim or something like that. She said, no. And I asked, so how far had the house gotten before he had knee surgery? She said the basement was completely concrete, what was to be concrete, and then he had the trusses, I believe they're across the basement. The thing that was going to hold up the first floor? She said yes, and that was it. And then when did you restart? Answer, I believe that was in 2002. So it sat for 4 years. She said probably 3 or 4 years.
And I'm going to have you go to page 22 and continue reading that page, please.
And why 3 or 4 years? She said, because Todd's knee surgery, he was unable to work, and we got into substantial debt at the time. So then I asked, that kind of brings us back to you were in debt, you sold some property, you borrowed the mortgage. It sounds like you were back in debt again at the time of the fire when all this stress was going on in your marriage. Or was it just a matter that you were heading back toward that again? Her answer was, I don't think we've ever been out of debt. We'd have some paid down, but I think we were just in debt continuously. I asked, was there ever a discussion of bankruptcy? She said, no. I said, why not? She answered, because we just felt people that filed for bankruptcy are ignoring their debts, and it hurts you more in the long run if you don't continue to try and pay off your debts. I said, so at the time of the fire, what would you estimate your debt was? She answered, I don't know. Maybe I'm not really sure. Do you want the mortgage included in that? And I said, let's set the mortgage out for now. She said, okay, maybe $100,000 or so.
And I'm going to have you then go to page 23 and then start at line 8 and then just read down.
I asked her where the $100,000 was owed to, and she said Todd had received loans from family members. I asked which family members. She said his mother. I asked Sandra. She said yes. I believe that was about $30,000. His sister Kathy was the most recent, $25,000. His brother Brad, $7,000. What was Kathy's last name? Martone Stermer. When you said Stermer, you saw that I was right by Brad, right? I'm sorry, Brad Stermer, correct. Medical, she said medical bills. I asked, how much do you figure that was? She said, I don't know, maybe $10,000. A truck around $14,000 or $15,000. Mechanic who has the truck, $3,500.
And I'll have you stop there and just go to page 24. And if you could start on that page, please.
I asked how long he had the truck. She said 7 months. I asked if there was anything else. She said, I'm sure there is. I just can't think of what it is right at this minute. The truck, who's that with? She said, do you mean who it's financed through? First Community Federal Credit Union, I believe. FC, First Community, I believe. Or no, First Federal Credit Union, sorry. So I asked, what are your payments on that? She said, close to $500 a month. I asked, are you making monthly payments to mom, sister, brother? She said, no. I asked, do you owe any of your friends or family money? Meaning her instead of Todd. She said, I borrowed $1,000 from my grandmother. I asked, what's her name? She told me Frances Pierce. I asked if there was anyone else, and she said no.
And then I'm going to have you jump down to line 23, and that page, read that to the bottom of the page and continue into the next.
Were there any other wedge issues in your marriage besides finances? And she said, the horses that I had. I said, okay, what was an issue about the horses? She answered, I just think he would I just know that he would get frustrated sometimes at the number of horses I had and the work that was involved in taking care of them. He just got tired of that. What about the expenses? She said, no, he never complained too much about that. I asked, how many horses do you own or did you own at the time of the fire? And she said the number of horses that were at the property at the time of the fire was 12.
That's a lot of horses.
And
That's
I'll
a
have you
herd.
stop there, and then
Herd
if you
of
want to
horses.
go ahead and switch now to page 33, on line 21, if you'll just read the bottom 5 lines of that and continue on to the next page on 34.
I asked her, what was the most you had been at in your marriage? She said 49. I said 49 horses?
Whoa.
And she said yes. I asked, do you have the facilities for 49 horses? And she said, I leased land for them. And when was the last time you had 49 horses? She said, I believe it was in 2002.
And I'm going to stop you there. If you can switch to page 45 for me, please, on line 12. If you could start there and read to the bottom of the page.
I said, now we talked about issues in your marriage, we talked about finances, we talked about horses. Anything else? She said, pretty much no. I guess that pretty much sums it up. So then I asked, let me go through some other categories. Did either of you have any problems with drugs or alcohol? She said, Todd has had some addictions over the years. I said, like what? She said, to Vicodin. And when was he addicted to Vicodin? She said, about the time that he had his knee surgery, back when that permit was first gotten, when he blew his knee out. And how did he get past that? She said, I talked to his doctor and had the doctor change our prescriptions. Because I had shoulder surgery right before Todd had his knee surgery, and so the doctor prescribed both of us Vicodin. Keep going.
I'm going to have you skip down then to line 11 and read to the bottom of the page.
What other addictions has he had? She said he has smoked marijuana before and sleeping pills. I asked he used or been addicted to. She said the sleeping pills I believe he was addicted to. The marijuana, I kind of think he was addicted to that for a very long time, but then he was able to quit smoking it for a long time. He smoked it since then, but not on a daily or regular basis. I asked sleeping pills. She said yes. I said, what was he using, or when was he using those? And she said the few weeks before the fire. And do you think he was addicted to those? And she said yes. And before then, also, he had been addicted to them. It's been a couple years.
I'm going to have you go on to page 47 and continue on.
When was the last time that you saw him take a sleeping pill? She said the weekend of the fire. The day of the fire? She said, I think it was the night before, the day before. I asked her when. She said, when I got home that night, he took that and then his medicine for his ear infection that he had. I said, what kind of sleeping pill did he take? And she said, Ambien CR. I asked if that is over the counter. She said, no, it's a prescription. I asked, did he take any that morning? She said, I don't know. Did you see him take any medications that morning? She said, I seen him take his cough syrup, and I know he took some pills, but I don't know which pills he took. I asked several pills. She said, I don't know. I said, you said some pills. I'm just trying to get an idea of what you saw. She answered, I just saw that he had his bottles next to him, and he opened them and took his medicine. I don't know. What bottles were there? What was in the bottles? She said, I don't know what the drugs were. There were some that were prescribed by the doctor for his ear, and, I don't know.
And go ahead and continue then until the bottom of the page, please.
All right. So then I keep going. I asked, like painkillers or like antibiotics? And she said, I think they might have been antibiotics or antihistamines. I'm not sure exactly which. Which else was there? She said, that's all I can recall sitting right there. Any sleeping pills there? She said, I don't think they weren't there. They were in the bathroom. I don't know if he took any of them. Did he act like he was under the influence of any drugs at any point the day of the fire? She said he was loopy, but he had been. He had been that way for the last couple of weeks. He had, displayed where he was just kind of doped up, kind of. I don't know how else to describe it, just loopy, and like he'd be talking and then he would just stop in the middle of a sentence and then come back to it minutes later or something as if there was no pause. Just kind of weird. My son described him one day as being stoned. I asked, did you ever confront him about it? Did you ever ask him what he was using? She said, yeah. He said, what did he say? She said, not to worry about it. It wasn't any of my business.
I'm going to have you go to page 49 and continue on that page.
I asked, are there any other addictions? She said, not that I'm aware of. I asked, did Todd ever have an affair? She said, not that I'm aware of. Did you ever have an affair? She said, no. I said, did either of you ever accuse the other one of having an affair? She said, yes. When and who? I asked. She said, well, Todd has female friends, I have male friends, and we'd get angry, I guess, sometimes, and just accuse the other person or ask the other person, but never, I don't think, ever seriously. I guess just kind of, so I asked, had either of you made that accusation within 6 months of the fire? She said, yeah, Todd had. I asked, who did he accuse you of having an affair with? And she said, well, it was actually kind of funny because he came down to where I worked to surprise me one night to meet me for break, and I just so happened to have fallen at work and wasn't there at work. I was at the hospital. And when he called me on my cell phone, I answered it, and he says, are you at work? I said, no. And right then he says, who the hell are you with? And I told him my boss had to take me to the hospital. So then Todd came to the hospital, and everything was fine. But it was just kind of weird that he decides to show up and surprise me on the day that I end up twisting my ankle and going to the hospital. So
I'll just have you read the next two lines, 6 and 7.
Where were you working at the time? She said, Chemlink.
And I'll have you drop down to line 18 on page 50, and if you could read to the bottom of the page.
Any other accusations? She said he would just sometimes yell something like that, like, are you seeing somebody else? Because, we had talked about divorce, but you never had? And she said, no. Did he ever accuse you of being in a relationship with a woman? And he asked me if I was.
And I'll have you read on page 51 down to line 16, please.
With who? She said, my friend Kate Fox. I said, had you and she ever had a relationship like that? And she said, no. So I asked, and what was his basis of that accusation? Did he tell you? And she said, yeah, because Kate had attempted suicide and was in the hospital, and I was really distraught over it. We were really close, and we worked together, and I was just really worried about her. And he asked if we were lovers. Was that a serious question, or was he just telling you to stop worrying about her? She said, I think he was getting sick of me worrying about her so much, and it was, just his way of, putting things.
I'll have you read then 15 and 16 and stop on that page.
I said, okay, you worked with Kate Fox at Chemlink, and she said yes.
And then I'm going to have you go to page 52, and if you could read this page for me, please.
I asked if there were any other recent accusations of affairs. She said no. And then I asked her, you haven't accused him in the last 6 months? And she said no. I asked, what about abuse? Any abuse in the relationship? And she said yes. I said, what kind, when? And she said, different times through the years, just different things. I asked, let's just talk about that in the last year. She answered, the most recent was around Thanksgiving time. He had shoved me across the room, had thrown my cell phone at me, and he pushed me into the wall. I asked, what was that fight about? And she said part of it was me making a pineapple upside down cake to work for a potluck and not having made one for home.
What?
But I had all the ingredients to make two. I just hadn't made the one for home yet. I was going to make it on the weekend. And then that was about the time that he said, you're treating your coworkers better than your family. And then that night before the fire, he wanted to make love, and I didn't. And he came into the bedroom and tried to pry my legs apart and take my pants off, but I didn't let him.
And I'm going to have you continue on that on page 53, please, that page.
I said, so was there any sexual intercourse that night or not? And she said no. And I said, how did you stop him? And she said, I told him it wasn't going to make anything better and that I didn't want to. And if he made me, I would tell the police. I had never said anything like that to him before, so at least he knew I was serious. I asked, have you ever hit him or thrown anything at him? And she said, no. I said, has he ever accused you of it? And she asked, of hitting him? Yes. And I said, but it wasn't true? And she said, right. Did you ever call the police? Did he ever call the police on you? She said, no. I said, did you ever call the police on him? And she said, yes. Before we ever moved to Lawrence, sometime prior to 1996. I couldn't give you the date. I didn't actually call the police on him. The girl was staying at our house, called the police, but I had talked with them. And at that time, he had hit me and pushed me quite a bit, and I had some marks on me, and 2 police officers came, a male and a female. And when he came out, the female officer was with me, and I was about ready to file a report. And he came out and said, are you sure you want to do this? Because you'll go to jail too. And I asked what he meant. And he said, well, if you accuse me of hitting you, then I'll accuse you of hitting me, and we'll both go to jail. All the grandparents were out of town at the time, and the police officer said that was true, and that if we didn't have someplace for the kids to go, that they'd have to have, I don't remember who they said, but it came down to like protective services would have to come and get the kids. And Todd says, are you sure you want to do this? And I talked to the police officer, and she said, well, yeah, it's his word against your word, and if you both say that you both got hit, then we have to take both of you in and let the judge decide. So I didn't pursue it any further, and they left, and we spent the night there in the house, and he apologized to me.
You continue.
So that was the only time that you called the police on him, and she said, well, like I said, I didn't call the police were called. But as far as abuse between he and I believe those 2 incidents were around Thanksgiving time and that time.
So I'm going to stop you right there. So in the duration of the marriage, she's saying that she's had 2 incidents, one prior to 1996 and then one at Thanksgiving time.
And the one the night before the fire.
And the one the night before the fire. Thank you very much.
That's what she wanted me to believe, yes.
And then I'm going to then have you start at line 24 on page 54, if you could continue on there.
At least he's a good reader. We've had bad readers do this, and it's painful.
I said, thank you very much. Who called the police around Thanksgiving? And she said, Kate Fox. I asked, what? And she said, Kate Fox. I said, what was Kate Fox doing there? And she answered, she wasn't there. She had called me on the phone to come and pick me up for work because we rode together and most every day. And I was crying and hysterical and upset, and I told her I couldn't talk to her, and so she called the police.
And I'm going to have you jump down to line 21 and read the bottom of that page, please.
I asked, this incident the night before the fire, where he tried to force himself on you, what kind of situation did that create between the 2 of you? She answered, he wasn't happy. I said, how are you? And she said, well, I actually felt relieved that he stopped. I mean, he kept yelling at me about it and different things, but not too bad. And he told me that if I would just make love with him, that everything could be just fine.
I'll have you continue.
I said, did you at any time from that moment on? She clarified, make love with him. I said, yes. And she said, no. I asked any sort of sexual contact at all the day of the fire, and she said, no. Any more instances like that where he was trying to force it? And she said, no. I asked, did you tell anybody about this incident before the fire? And she said, no. I said, have you told anyone about this since the fire? She said, yes. I asked who? She said, I told my mother, I told Mr. Getting, I told my counselor.
Now have you stop there, and if you can go to page 57, start halfway through line 23.
Start halfway through.
But up until Kate Fox and I began working together, that was the most I had ever hung out with another female, and that was mainly because we worked together and we carpooled every single day.
And I'm going to have you stop there, and if you can go to page 62, please, on line 21.
Is this how they're handling the redactions? Because we can see it all on the screen.
I was asking about medications, and she said she was taking Lexapro since November of 2006, and I was given the prescription for Ambien CR. That was my prescription, but I wasn't taking it.
And I'm going to have you then stop and go to page 63 and go to the 4th line down and just read lines 4 and the portion of 5.
This was her response. She said, the Ambien, I took it a couple of times, but it made me feel too groggy and too sluggish.
So you can stop there.
Okay.
And then I'm going to have you go to page 64, line 16. If you could just read 4 lines for me.
You described him in in the morning of the fire, having a tray of pill bottles by him. I meant what? And she said, no, I just said a couple of pill bottles, and I think that they were just what was prescribed for his ear.
And I'm going to have you go to page 66, line 10, and if you could read that from 10 to the bottom of the page.
66, line 10. We're in the middle of an answer. She says, I was thinking about some things, and I had spoken with an attorney that we know who had handled some of Corey's custody and stuff, and asked him that if Todd ever did decide he wanted a divorce, if he would represent me. I asked, who is that? She said, Mr. Jeff Gaggie, Gagie, G-A-G-I-E. But I don't know if you would need that, because you said within the last couple of years, and that was back in maybe 2002 or so, so it was a few more years than I was thinking. I asked, you contacted Mr. Gaggie? She said, well, actually, I was using Mr. Is it Gaggie or Gage? Do you know?
Gaggie.
Gaggie, okay. Well, I actually was using Mr. Gaggie for the rescue case of the 23 horses, and I asked, you needed an attorney to rescue horses? And she said, yeah, sometimes you do. I asked, I mean, I'm not opposed to using attorneys, and she said, sometimes you do. And, you know, Todd had got frustrated and upset about so many horses coming in all at once, and the fact that the previous owner of them had changed her mind about turning them over and that. So Mr. Gaggie was representing me on that, and I told him that Todd was really upset and frustrated, and he had spewed off about getting a divorce.
I'll have you stop there.
Sure.
And then I'll just have you skip down to line 14.
When did you have that conversation with Mr. Gaggie? She said, I don't know, probably sometime around 2002, then again in November of 06.
And I'll have you just jump down to line 19 and continue there.
This is her answer. In November, I went to Mr. Gaggie and asked him if he would do a divorce for me because I just decided that I just couldn't keep living this way. I had told Todd after that it was just too much, and he gave me some paperwork at that time. I didn't file, I didn't pay him or anything, but he gave me the paperwork that would be necessary to file. So, when you ask me if I filed, no, I had never filed. But yes, I did talk to him pretty extensively about it, and I had told him about some different incidences that happened and that made me feel really uncomfortable.
I'll have you continue.
I asked her, like, what? And she said, well, Todd had been out hunting one morning, and I was sitting in the dining room at the computer before we moved it into the other room. And he came up the stairs. He was holding his gun and cleaning it. And he was holding his gun and a cleaning kit. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see that the gun was open. It was like a shotgun or a rifle. And he was carrying a cleaning kit. And he came over and he set the cleaning kit on the dining room table behind me and just held up the gun. Well, I could see the reflection in the computer screen that the gun was not pointed directly at my head, but I never turned around and faced him or anything at that point and didn't act like I seen him exactly what he was doing. And he held it there and he said, I'm really sorry I have to do this. And I turned around and just looked at him and I said, you're a jerk. And he said, why? And I said, why would you joke around like that? And he says, you were so scared. And he just started laughing at me. And he had told me Todd had been really studying the Bible a lot Todd had been really studying the Bible a lot this past year, 2006. I asked, he told me? And she said, pardon me? And I said, did you say someone told you Todd was studying the Bible? And she said, no. I said Todd had been studying the Bible pretty heavily over the past year, a lot more than he ever had before, and, well, just a lot. And he told me that in the Bible it says that a man who gets a divorce from a woman, if she should remarry after that divorce, then it's still considered, in the Bible, it's considered adultery. So that man who divorces that woman is considered just as much of a sinner because he caused that sin. And he says, so I can't divorce you, but you can divorce me. So I told Mr. Gaggie that. Keep going?
Nope, I'm going to have you stop there. I'll have you read on line 19 down.
I asked, so any more episodes like that in between November and when the fire occurred? And she said, just a lot of little things. Like he would talk about divorce. He would talk about death. He would talk about suicide. He would talk about insurance. He would talk about moving to Canada. Just a lot of just different things.
And I'll have you read that on page 70.
Canada's like, no thanks.
When would he talk about suicide? She asked, what do you mean when? Just different times? Like he'd say, I'd be better off dead. I'm so sick of this. I asked what was going on when he'd say, I'm so sick of this. She said, being in debt all the time, not having energy to work on the house. You know, our house wasn't complete, and he would stay home, not go to work, not work on the house, not do anything. He didn't, this last year, I mean, he was an avid hunter before, and we always had a lot of meat, deer meat and that. And this last year, he hardly ever went hunting. He got 2 deers, and I think that's the least he got in many years. The boys wouldn't go hunting with him this year. I asked why. She said, just too busy with other things, and that frustrated Todd. And he would say things like, the boys don't even enjoy hunting anymore, and I don't enjoy hunting anymore. He didn't play church basketball this year, and just a lot of different things. He just didn't. I asked, did you guys attend church regularly? She said, no.
Now have you stop there?
All right.
And then if you could go to page 75, at the bottom of the page, on line 24.
I asked, what time did you wake up the morning of the fire? She said, probably around 7 o'clock.
And I'll have you continue that on page 76.
Did you have an alarm set? She said, no. I asked, were all 3 sons and Todd home when you woke up? She said, yes. Who all was awake when you woke up? She said, no one. I asked, what did you do? And just to clarify, this is the part of the examination where I go through moment by moment on the day of the fire. I want to know everything that happened so that we have a very clear timeline and we can start to verify the story. So I asked her, what did you do? She said, just puttered around about the house. I asked, I really need to know all the puttering. She said, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think what I did first thing. I always get up and brush my teeth right away. I got dressed. At some point that morning, I remember straightening my bathroom. Did you do any cooking? Did you do any laundry? She said, not right away that day, no. I asked, are you a coffee gal? She said, no. Well, I went down to the convenience store and got some eggs, and I believe it seems like it was Smoky Links, maybe some milk. I said, okay, wait, when you left to go to the convenience store, was anyone else awake? She said, no. I asked, do you know what time that was? She said, I know it was before 10 o'clock. I asked, you went to what store? She said, the Village Marathon. I asked in Lawrence. She said, uh-huh.
I mean, you stop, just jump down to line number 9.
She skipped the gas.
What all did you buy there? She said, I bought some eggs, some, I believe it was Smoky Links. I think I got some milk, and I filled up my Blazer. I asked, so you did buy gas for the Blazer? And she said, yes. I asked, how much gas? Do you remember? She said, I don't remember. I think the total bill for everything combined all came to, I believe, around $20. I asked, anything else? She said, no. I asked, did you have any gas? Did you put any gas in a gas can that day? She said, no. I said, are you sure? She said, I know I didn't. And I asked, you know you did not? And she said, right.
I'll have you continue on page 78.
How long were you there? She said, not very long, just long enough to do that, just to purchase those things. I asked, what time did you get back home? She said, within minutes. We only lived 5 minutes away at the most. I asked, so you were home in 15 minutes? She said, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I was gone a total of. I asked, now what? She said, I began cooking. I asked, is there anybody awake? She said, I can't remember if Todd was awake yet or not. I know that while I was cooking, he was up, but I can't remember if he was up before then or not. I asked, did you start cooking right away? She said, as soon as I got back, yes. I asked, the eggs and sausage? She said, yes. And then I put coffee on for Todd because he is a coffee drinker. Okay. And then And at some point, he was awake, and she said yes. I asked, while you were cooking? She said yes. What else happened? I told him when he came out into the kitchen, I told him I had gone down and gotten those things and told him that I used the debit card. The debit card for what bank, I asked. She said his debit card from his business account. I asked, why did you use the debit card from his business account? She said, because I knew there was money in there. I asked, where does he have his business account? She said, it's now LaSalle Bank in Paw Paw. I asked, do you have any records of that account with you today? She said, I don't. I'm sorry. I said, can you get those for me? She said, I can try. I don't know if the bank will let me have them because my name was not on the account. Keep going?
Yes, please.
So she used that account.
So I asked, how did you get his debit card? She said, I took it out of his wallet. I asked, was that common for you? She said, yes. And then I continued my question, or was that unusual? She said, no, it was common for me. I asked, was it common to use the business account to buy groceries? She said, yes. He would write me a check from there for different things. I would either deposit it into the joint account or cash it and use it for whatever we were supposed to use it for. I told him about other purchases I made with it over the course of the weekend, and he got pretty upset because I hadn't written them into the register yet, and the fact that I had used it a few times. So I asked, so what did you buy over the weekend with it? She said, I bought a disposable camera. I asked why. She said, my grandmother had her 90th birthday party on Saturday, and I walked off and forgot to take my digital camera. And so I grabbed a disposable so I could get some pictures of family, and I filled prescriptions at Walgreens and at Walmart on Saturday.
And I'm going to have you stop there, and I'm going to have you go to page 81. Yes.
About 5 minutes or
Oh,
so,
that's fine.
unless you're getting near the end, but I don't think you
No,
are.
so I mean, we can end it any time, Your Honor.
Want to do it now?
That would be fine. We can do it now if you want, if the court would like to.
Okay. So, I don't think anyone's objecting, right? Okay. Let me read you my admonition again.
Should I step down there?
Yes, thank you. Okay, you guys should have this memorized by now. During the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction as well as all of my others regarding no communications and no research or investigations or social media, things like that. I'll have you return tomorrow at 9 o'clock to the jury room, please. And I think we're still basically on schedule.
And with that, we're done for the day. It's getting juicy. It's getting juicy here. Let's see if there's anything that has to happen after the jury steps out here. This is all, I apologize. I thought we were onto the jailhouse snitch document. We're not. This is all the defendant talking to the insurance investigator to see if they're going to pay out. And man, they ask everything. Nothing's off the table. They go into every area of her life, intimate or otherwise, financial, you name it. And, it's spicy.
Counsel, any matters to address the jury has left?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. We'll be in recess. We're off.
Till 9 o'clock tomorrow. Till 9 o'clock. We've got more. That's the end of day. They finish at 4:30. I think the judge has a standing, I don't know, dinner appointment somewhere. I don't know what it is. But how much was the policy for, and did she collect any of it? I don't know how much it was for, but no, they didn't collect because they determined it was, in fact, arson. And not a third party, like a resident committed arson. So, yeah, she ends right at 4:30. She does not like to go much later than that. Ever try to file a mattress warranty claim? Same level of probing. Tell me all about this mattress and what has happened here. That's terrible. That's terrible, Greeners. Great day of spicy. It has been a really spicy day. Today's been spicy. We had some of the fire investigator who spent most of the day on the stand testifying, and cross-examination was pretty hot. Was pretty hot there, and we got a lot of objections back and forth between the two parties, and the judge finally, standing up a little bit for herself and for her courtroom and laying down the law a little bit in a soft way. But if you like spice, today should be a great day for you because it's wonderful. So if you missed it, you need to go back and watch. That's a rule, not my rule. I just work here. I don't make up the rules. Okay. Anything else? Podcast tonight, 8:00 tonight on this channel. Please be here. Thomas and I will have some fun stuff to talk about. We'll also have some free memberships to give away. So come in gray, prepare to leave in green. It could happen. It could be. Yeah, there's flashing lights outside my house by the pole. Oh, it looks like it's a big semi that's turning right. It's gonna hit the pole. Didn't hit the pole. Oh, it's still trying to navigate the turn. Yeah, fiber going down in 3, 2, 1. Quick, play the music. Okay. I think it's a truck trying to navigate. It's still trying to make the corner. I've got to talk fast, guys, because we might be done. I'll use my Starlink for the win. Yeah. Tonight when you go home, please have the people you love smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. Please stay safe till we go live again tonight at 8 p.m. with the Not Relevant podcast. Please join us. It'll be a lot of fun. I may be able to make a link. Let's see. Give me a second. I'll get this set up. Season 3, what's the episode? 13? Is it 13? I think it's 13. Right. Oh. What? I have to redo it. It didn't take. I'll have to fix the thumbnail and everything as well. We'll do a portal over to it, you guys. We'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. You got a few more hours. Get some dinner in. We'll see you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
In front of the Walmart.
Because he's the guy.
Thank you, sir. You're my new best friend.
I don't like podiums, Your Honor.